in his father's country, right? But then technically because of tribe, remember we were talking with the Africans, because the father is, there's some sort of leeway there, but then also because the way he looks, he will have issues, just like how they have issues with the people in East Africa. So what we think is phenotypically Black is actually phenotypically mixed race a lot of the times. And so because a lot of people will look at a lot of Black people who they'll say we all come in various shades because they've been brainwashed to think that, it's really, you can be from the whitest Black to the blackest Black, but it's all Black. And even the phenotypes of the faces, I remember Tyra Banks, she looked at a Caucasian lady and said to her, "You must have Black in you because you look like my sister." And that lady didn't look Black at all. But, Tyra Banks looks very mixed. So I think there's a lot of confusion there as well when we say stuff like that, but that's just me. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
Like, I understand that. I feel like Barack Obama, like, he's obviously, like, I wouldn't say, for some people that are, like, that's why I wouldn't necessarily say, like, when mixed people say, when people ask, like, what race are you? It is definitely should be, well, in the Black and white instance is what I'll use. It's, of course, to say I am both races. I don't really think, it's a little harder because there's also people say that you can be phenotypically one side, but you are ethnically both sides. Like I guess I could say in I'll use like my father. He has what is and let me put this in quotes and consider like an Indian type nose. The shape of it and his hair texture is a little more I don't know how to describe it, but
on the East Indian side.
Yeah. So that is kind of what is harder to describe, but he is, obviously, in my father's case, he is majority Black. My grandpa's case, he is like one half. So that is, I guess I should have used him, but he is one half exactly. And he just looks Black. You would never assume that he is mixed race, until you saw his father. And so that is kind of where it gets like hard. I feel like if you are, of course, one half, you should claim both sides. I wouldn't just say, this person is just Black. I feel like that's kind of ignorant to just say you are just Black, because you are both of your sides. But, some people will choose to identify more with one side, and that typically happens with people who are around one parent more than the other, or people who kind of sometimes identify with or have I guess like a self-identity crisis. They are trying to figure out what they identify with, which I feel like both sides should always be claimed. I don't think picking one. Oh, someone did mention I'm politically Black. That is actually the best way to say that. I feel like politically, if you are recognized that way.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's new. But look,
there's a lot of white people who are politically Black.
You say politically Black?
I've never heard that before.
What the hell is that?
Because I guess they is trying to say that, and when it comes to politics and this, that, and the third, if someone is looking at you, they're going to put you in that group of Black people, treat you that type of way, is what I think they try.
So I want to address.
Well, wouldn't that be the same thing as politically white?
Yeah.
But I want to.
Do you mean like?
I want to talk about a couple.
What do you mean?
So when it comes to us, I think it is a good solution for us to like have our own like term or our own ethnic group that encompasses all of who we are. But a lot of people view that as like segregation or trying to push division, and a lot of people don't want us. But I'm like, why is us having our own identity that encompasses all of who we are, so we don't have to like pick or choose a side? Why is that considered segregation? When it's like, when we all should be about, respecting each other's identity and ethnic groups. So why does it have to be, if there's a new ethnic group that's been formed, why is that, you're segregating yourself if you want to have a term that encompasses all of who you are? Why is that considered segregation?
It's not segregation until it is pushing any type of an agenda that is changing every bit of the world to pretty much encompass or to cater to it. That's when it becomes that.
Okay, so it's like, wait, okay. if we have an agenda, right? If we like, you know, want to just have our own term that encompasses who we are, that's not segregation, right? And just
No,
have
I
that.
don't.
No,
That's
not at
No,
all.
this is
I don't
how I
think that's
feel about
segregation.
this, is because
No,
like
that's just self-classification,
But if I'm
self-identification.
trying to like push things on other people, that you think that would cause division and stuff?
yeah,
Like,
so here's how I
Yeah.
kind of feel like
okay.
I feel about this. Like, so when I don't think like, I guess having your own term to like encompass your group, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel anything about that. But so I was in another live, and there was actually more people that I thought would like agree with this. Not what I'm saying, with like what the person was saying. And I'm just gonna say I feel like he definitely has some self-identity issues, because if you are, so obviously mixed people look different. Like, I feel like that is kind of that is something that you should understand. You're mixing, so it's not always going to be the same. Well, I feel like that's for any person. Anyways, so they were saying that someone asked if other people who don't exactly look mixed, they kind of represent more of one side. For example, my grandfather, who just looks black, he does not look black and Indian, or Jamaican and Indian. They are black and Asian is a better word, but he was basically saying, if you do not look like, or what I guess the envisioned mixed race person looks like, then I don't feel like you are as welcome in that group.
All right.
That's the only issue I feel, because there was way too many people agreeing with that.
Welcome then which group?
I knew where that was going.
So he was saying, like, so he was a biracial person, and he was saying, if you are not like the what we as envision as a mixed person, you should definitely not be the face of it, and I don't feel like you are as welcome in this type of group. Basically, someone said if they are a mixed person but are more so white identifying, or not white identifying, they look more so just white, would they be allowed in this group? And he was kind of like, no, because you aren't really the face of the group. And I'm like, what is the face of the group when the group is mixed?
What does that mean?
But the person who said you're not the face, are they mixed?
Yeah, that was the person, like, he was mixed. Like, I was just like, I was kind of confused.
I know who you're talking about, and I disagree with him on that. I disagree with him on that, because I'm like, no, there's so many different range and skin tones of being mixed and biracial. So
Exactly.
that makes
I have
sense.
a question.
I don't think
I have a
anybody's going to
question.
agree with him on that.
Hey guys, this is a really serious question for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
My granddaughter has a Caucasian mom, my daughter, and a mixed dad. His parents are African American and Swedish. Where does that place my granddaughter in this whole spectrum? How
She's
does
a quadroon. She's quadroon. That means she's 75%.
She's quadroon. I have heard that name before, but I had always thought that it was a derogatory term. Is it not a derogatory term? Is this something that I need to like research so I have a better understanding? I'm asking for y'all's opinions.
I think she's white, if you ask me.
It's
Because
derogatory.
I respect everyone else's opinion. I think she's white.
mixed.
That way.
There's so many different
By
opinions. I'm sorry.
definition, yes,
She's definitely of mixed
but if she is
ethnic.
enough percentage of, kind of like with Indian, Native American, if she's enough percentage, then you should respect that and consider it, and you color it.
Absolutely.
So that's where that definitely whatever she is, you gotta respect the whole spectrum. You have to.
Absolutely. And she has the most beautiful melanin color, and her hair is very, very flowy, but very fine, but it has a definite bouncy, like Shirley Temple curl to it. But so does my hair, and I'm Cajun French. So,
Right.
But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding so that I can, if necessary, defend her on her right racial profile.
Well,
When it comes down to checking that, You know, when you come down to that silly little box that you have to check all the time, are you white? Are you black? Are you Asian? Are you, mixed doesn't come into a category.
Well, yeah, racially,
Does your
she
state
is.
Yeah,
say?
unfortunately, that doesn't.
Does your state say check all of above? Because in New York, you can check more than one box,
I don't know. We're in
and that's
Texas.
Yeah, usually you can check more than one.
There's that whole thing.
And if you want, you can tell her to just check more than one. But racially, I feel like, because it is phenotype. If she looks white, that is what she racially is. But it doesn't mean that.
Is that written in law though? Is that written in law?
That is what phenotype is.
People on TikTok.
That is what phenotype is.
I understand what phenotype is, but I go by DNA. So what I'm trying to say is there an actual law that says?
You see, Angie, you asking the wrong people, because this is the wrong crowd to ask. In my
Wait, hold on for a second. I just want to say something, because the thing is that it's up to her, right, to actually identify as what she wants to identify, which is number one. But number two is there
right. Well, let me also state that she's only 9 years old, and we don't bring this up.
Right.
She is who she is. We haven't said that she has to choose, but eventually when she becomes an adult, she's going to have to make that decision. And I just want her to be able to be comfortable, and I want to be able to present as a grandma the proper guidance.
Well, in that case, you would mention to her that when she self-identifies, she can say, yes, I am white, but my father is of mixed race. So that is still prevalent in my life if he is indulging in that culture, of course. So that is one thing that I say. But obviously, I feel as though if she, you cannot tell that she is mixed. That is, of course, like her phenotype, because she is 75% white, but that does not knock down her genotype, as you mentioned, DNA, which is her ethnicity. I don't think that should be overlooked. I just think that phenotypically she would identify as white because that is what the society would probably see her as.
I understand.
I'm just wondering, is there a law that says that if you phenotypically look white, you must pick white? That's the question I have.
I don't think so.
To me, it kind of seems. I kind of feel like it seems like. Yeah.
Go ahead, one at a time. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, go on.
I kind of feel like it's like the whole gender identity thing is or not gender identity thing, I'm sorry, ethnicity identity thing is an important part of who she is. And I never want her to feel like she, is confused about her true identity.
No.
So I just looking for some pointers for future reference on how to make her kind of understand, because like I said, she's only 8. She's only 9.
Yeah,
and
that's 100%.
And we don't go, oh, your dad's half black and half white, and you're white. We don't talk about stuff like that.
I feel like she's old enough to
if she asks.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel like from a young age that should also be instilled, because it is harder as you get older, especially kind of because she is in America. It is harder for which I think is also a great need to bring up for people, to identify. So I definitely feel like you should. I don't think that she is too young to, of course, know her self-identity. You just have to break it down for her. She's definitely going to ask multiple times, like the same way I did, if she is ever confused. And if she doesn't ask, you can always correct her if you ever hear her saying anything wrong that is not technically correct. But I think that she is in society, they would recognize, I do not know what she looks like, but they would recognize her.
Can I see your face? I kind of keep seeing you pop in. But she has about your same skin tone, but she has like real fine curly hair. She looks very much like you in your
So
skin tone.
yeah, I feel like
Let her
in
be
that
mixed and
case,
proud,
because you can
okay? Let her
tell.
be mixed and proud. And I think
Yeah, I
that
feel like,
she should be proud of her mixed race heritage. You know, like she's 75% white, 25% black. Let her be proud of that. That her
Yeah,
dad's
because
Amen.
25 is a big
yeah, I feel like
percentage. I
the
mean, it's
creator,
not
you
like
can
it's
She should be
obviously
like
tell
something
she's
proud of.
mixed.
Mixed and
It's
proud,
not
baby. I think
super
she mixed
late.
and proud all day. And that's something
Mhm.
Y'all
that's
can
So
always go to my my TikTok page and see some of her videos. I posted one today. But I just want you to know that I love each and every one of you, and I really appreciate every bit of the
Love you
information that you've
too.
given me. By the way, biracial order, you are a friend of mine now.
Thank you.
And so you'll see me pop into your comments and stuff. But I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Yep, love
And
you
I'm
too.
going to go ahead and bow out in case anybody wants to come in.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming up here.
Thank you for
Good
answering my
night.
questions. Good night.
bye.
That's so nice.
So
I was mad
that was
sweet.
very
That was
sweet.
mad cool.
It
Can
was
I
pretty
ask my
awesome.
question? That is, it's kind of messing me up a little
Go
bit.
ahead, Scorpio.
What's
No,
the
the
question?
reason why I ask is okay. I'm what I would call a saltine American fella
Oh my
Okay.
God.
of the. Well, hold on, hear me out. Of the dairy milk variety. My daughter being, as of the same, but she has dated a white boy, a Latino, and an African American boy.
Mhm.
The African American boy treated her like platinum, like
Ooh.
diamond encrusted platinum,
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait,
like
what'd you
just.
say?
okay.
You said that
It
the
was the
African
African
American boy.
American boy. His name was Amir. He treated her like platinum and just diamond encrusted platinum. He treated her better than anybody.
that sounds nice.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
My daughter, same with me, is no. She loves African American. She does. And
That's good.
Where the hell did that come from?
I've grown to the point. I grew up in a family out in the country in the sticks. When I was younger, they were not fans of the other colored persuasion, we'll say. I separated myself from that family.
Okay.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry because it never felt right for me.
Right.
I hung around with everybody. I had fun. I had a blast. Yes, LaCreole. Yes, I'm a Caucasian fella. But no, I can have fun with everybody because I don't give a damn what color you are. I just don't care. But I know an African American boy treated my daughter better than anything under the sun.
Oh, so you have.
No, not yet.
Okay.
She'll be 21 in September. She's in college. So I'll be 42.
Awesome.
No, I'll be 42 in November.
That's awesome. Wait, what was the question? Because you said you had a question about something.
So by biracial, do you mean biracial is in a black-white couple dating? Do you mean a biracial couple dating?
Well, biracial is kind of
by the definition of
I wanted to
society,
speak to all different biracials and see their opinion about it.
that's what's messing me up. Because if you go for biracial, it could be any race.
Yeah, it could be anything. That's
dating, so it's like
I wanted to talk.
Oh
to
no,
all
she's not talking.
different
Wait, he's
biracial
not.
people.
Wait. Before we.
Oh yeah, definitely La Creole. Yeah, definitely.
Scorpio Death said biracial couples, but we're not talking about.
Oh, we're not
biracial
talking
couples.
about
We're
the
talking
couples.
about.
We're talking, yeah.
We're
talking about children.
mixed race children.
No. My
who
daughter's
have-
not biracial. My daughter's white. She was
Right.
an African American. Loved him to death. Still does. You name it. But she's talking to another, African American boy, which I am full all the way for, because I know, no offense, but I don't trust a white boy with my daughter. I don't. I just don't.
so Scorpio, like the only.
Hold on, I want to hear. Okay, so let me hear J.E. Freeman. I'd like to hear your opinion about this topic, because that was kind of off topic a little bit, but I just want to know your opinion about this topic a little bit.
What I just said?
I don't think that. I think it's what she says on
the question that's up on the background.
I wanted to say something.
I consider myself black because I was born under the one drop rule. I've gone over this before. Everybody can identify as however you want, but you have to understand that some people, or if you're having interracial couples and you're having biracial mixed race children, you have to understand and teach those children that there are going to be actors, our enemies in this world, that are only going to see us as that one thing. And it, you know, if I was trying to explain how like passing is, it can get you in a lot of trouble, because if someone finds out later on, they're going to be, you know, out to remove you from that situation. And there's books written about it. There's one called King's Blood Royale. There's another one called the Quadroons. And it's just part of our history. And I feel like the reason I use these words is because that part of our history has basically been erased. And I know we talked about before, like, what do we do about biracial history? But people like Frederick Douglass are biracial leaders, you know. These are the people, even Malcolm X is biracial because his grandfather was white, which would make one of his parents biracial. So yeah, it's just, I mean, it's hard for me to like really get behind the you know, separation from the black community, because when we in America say biracial, we're almost exclusively talking about, Malcolm X is biracial, that lady's whatever, but we're almost exclusively talking about black and white mixes. Yeah, I mean, we all are black. Even like Walter Francis White, who is octaroon that worked at the NAACP investigating the lynchings in the South, he was white passing, but he understood at the time that he was still on the census listed as black or a Negro during the 20th century. We don't need to separate. We just need to be more inclusive within our community. We need to realize that there's trauma that's left on us by the black community, which, if they don't want to call it colorism, then we just need to figure out some other term that we can accept to call it, to address it without beating around the bush about it. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need to separate. I think that we need to, like, we're all.
I'm not lying, bro. You know I'm not lying.
Within the black community.
I mean, we're already separated just by when they say you're not black, or, right, you know, you're not this or that, you know. So, I mean, like, right, whether you want it or not, there's a lot of issues that separates us all the time. You know, so we're not trying to separate. Malcolm even talks about his white grandfather, bro. So maybe you should educate yourself.
It's like that 75% white, you 75% black, you mix. When you come 80%, that's when you're like monoracial. That's like
I feel like Malcolm X definitely claimed black, though. He never said he was mixed. He recognized it, but he was a black man.
But we have to
we have to remember
we're living in 2023, and so the truth is, a lot of people, right? There was a documentary called "Who is Black in America?" and the lady who was talking about it, you can't tell that she's black at all. Something O'Brien, I forgot what her first name was. You should definitely watch it on YouTube. And it was showing you all these different biracial people. Mostly people mix it black and white, right? And it was based on who they were raised with most of the time, on how they self-identified, right? And the thing is that you have a lot of people today who have a very loving relationship with their white grandfather. It's not always only one side likes and the other side doesn't. You have a lot of people being raised today with, you know, just like this lady who said that the person is half white and the mom is, white, and so their child is like 75% white, but they didn't even know, like, is their child considered mixed still? And the thing is that this is so common, it's not being talked about, right? And a lot of people are not really getting in trouble to pass as white in order to marry a white person right now, or marry a black person, you know? Because there is no Jim Crow in the way it was done back then, right? And so no one's life is on the line right here. No one is going to get lynched or something like that, you know, because the thing is that we're living in a different time period. It's definitely the past has a bearing on the present, but the census record is different today. A lot of people are labeled as mixed race in a lot of states, and in other states, they're just labeled as other or all of the above. So we're looking at a different time period. We already know in California, many people are, a whole bunch of different things, right? It's just that it hasn't gotten to your neighborhood yet where it's so common. But like where I live, it is so common that, we don't even think twice about it anymore. We've just like, we have other issues, you know what I'm saying? So that's just the way I look at it. You have to look at the future and the present.
Well,
Here, this is all I want. Oh, go ahead. Let me say something real quick.
Yeah, you go first.
I just want us in America to respect mixed race identity. That's it. Like, if I say I'm mixed race, I'm this and that, then just have it be respected and not be like, oh, well, you are what you look like, you are this, no, you can't identify with this, you can't do this. And it's like, I just want my identity respected, just like everybody else deserve their identity to be respected. We deserve identity to be respected and not always invalidated and told, no, you can't identify as that because that's not a race or that's not anything and that doesn't count. It seemed like it's weird because as soon as biracial people, it's like, as soon as we're like, okay, we're biracial, that's fine. Because there were so many people that were saying, oh, if you're biracial, you're not black at all. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So as soon as we start like identifying as biracial and saying, okay, what's biracial? It's like, no, well, it's not a race. Biracial is not a race. That doesn't count, basically. And it's just like, you can't win. You can't win no matter what we say or what we do. People are going to find issue and find fault with it and be like, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do this. You can't say this. You can't do that. And it's like, I don't really care about that no more. I don't really care about mad about what I say or about what we do. I'm just trying to figure out, I just really wanted to speak about biracial people to figure out what's best for ourselves and do that. And if people are mad about that, oh well, so it's like, I'm just trying to figure out what would be best for us.
I wanted to speak on that for like...
Brother Legend disagrees in the comments.
I get it. It's tough. You're 100% of those or multiple races,
so
right?
Speak for ourselves. I'm gonna speak for we can speak for ourselves. We don't have to have people always telling us
exactly. Screw what other people think.
That's what I'm at. I'm like, I don't care what you out. Anybody could talk about whoever. That's why we need these spaces so we could talk about. Speak for ourselves and have a voice for ourselves instead of always people trying to tell us what to think and what to do and how to be and all this and that and that and this and period.
Yeah. So the question I got that's right.
Did you see what this person wrote? Well, this is not South Africa. Write your congressman and lobby for color. That's so funny.
That's great. Yeah, that's how everything gets fixed, huh?
Yeah, true.
I just wanted to speak on that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I totally hear what you're saying, and I'm not trying to add a but to it. I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to I just wanted to say why I think this is too, because for example, I'm gonna be honest, my family never dealt with this because we're all accepting. Everyone is literally mixed, so there is we can't even do that.
Right.
So, I feel like a lot of the time what I see is because America still it's really hard for some people to, and I will say I've seen it too. There are some mixed people who don't want to claim mixed and they will claim a certain side for certain privileges or pleadings, I will say. When I feel like both sides need to be recognized. And I don't feel like, we understand that the root of this cause is a lot of the time is because we're not indulging our mixed children in both sides equally, or we're not recognizing it. One of the things that I like to kind of point out because it upsets me is that there is a lot of fetishization within mixed children, and they want the mixed kids, but they won't recognize that this child is mixed, and it's not fair to the child because then they grow up and for example, one of the things that I will definitely notice is it happens for I'll just use Texas because in Florida I feel like the groups that I have gone around are a lot more accepting because we have a huge mixed mixed population. Yeah. So, I'll just use Texas, for example, for someone who I'm not going to say, of course, all, but I will say, I see sometimes that with parents who are more fetishizing their children or want the mixed kid for the looks, there is some internal racism there. So they will say they won't try and indulge their child with the other side. And I feel like that's wrong, because then that child goes through identity crises. They feel like they need to claim this one side. And then I also see that there sometimes, what I've seen, because, just because this is a huge mixed population, I won't say I definitely don't see it. There are mixed kids who are, there are mixed kids that will show hatred in their parents, but then want to put down the one side. In the case that I'm speaking about was Black, because he was raised by his white mother. He did not want to claim white or Black. He wanted to claim mixed, which, I feel like we need to recognize both, but you can also claim it. But then he wanted to put down the one side for not indulging him in the culture when he was raised by his white mother. And so because, a lot of these people, there are a lot of people who are, in this case, he was white, but his family, or not white, mixed, but his mother was white. Her family was racist. And so they're going to tell them a whole bunch of things that is just wrong. Like, I had a friend, actually, her mom was Black, her dad was white, and they sent her over to her white side of the family. And the way that she was treated was just wrong. And I feel like, because we're not really indulging these children and and explaining to them that, or explaining not just to these children, but more so the people who are procreating them, that when you have a racial fetishization, it's not necessarily a good thing. Because you are more likely to cause your child to have a racial crisis, and they are not going to understand why they look this way, but they're still getting the hate from the other side that supposedly upholds them, and this is a prevalent issue in, I feel, just America, not just America, but in America at this time. So here's Yeah,
I understand what you're saying there, but that technically
like
wouldn't that be continuing pretty much segregation?
I swear to God, dude, don't say segregation.
We talk about we want a little community for ourselves. Y'all don't tell us
everybody's a part. Everybody. Okay, are we all part of the same damn planet? Are we not all on the same damn planet?
I think it's just a misconception. Some people don't really remember.
It's like, oh, you're trying to segregate. You're trying to do this, because it's like,
no,
why can't we have a community who could relate to our?
No, what I mean
I don't
is
think he means that. Yeah, I don't think.
What I mean is, like, my daughter is way happier, around African American stuff like that. I enjoy being around everybody.
Ain't nobody gonna overtalk me on my own panel. But anyways, what I'm saying is, it's ridiculous that I don't see any other community get shamed and bashed and say, oh, you're creating segregation, you're creating division, if they're trying to be like around people who could relate to their experiences. Like, I don't see that. You see there's cosplay communities, there's furry communities, there's all these different type of communities all over the place, and it's like, oh, you guys are creating division. And it's like, it's nobody. I go down to there's the Asian community, we got the Black community, we got all these different communities based on people who can relate to each other based on their experiences. Nobody ever says that's segregation, that's this or that, because they respect their identities. But when it comes to us, it's like, no, you can't have nothing, because that's segregation.
I don't think it's segregation. I just feel like because of this, I don't think it is segregation. I feel like that would cause problems of the other groups feeling like you are excluding them.
If it's
we're already excluded by them, so why not just, make a spade a spade, like call it what it is. If it looks like a dog,
if people feel that type of way about us having like a little community or a little space for ourselves, then that's not my issue, honestly. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. If it's something that's good for me, but people feel like they're gonna feel some type of way about it, I don't know what to tell you, because nobody's being excluded here in this space. I wanted to have a biracial-centered space, but who's being excluded here? Unless you start being disrespectful.
No,
So
I'm
it's
not saying
it's the same thing. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, no,
Nobody
I'm
would
not
be
saying that you
excluded
are
unless you-
excluding anyone. I'm just saying people, like, I feel like having a, like, of course, like a biracial, like, community or get together, like, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. I just feel like there's people that are gonna find something wrong with that.
They're gonna find something wrong.
So because there's like the Blue Vein Societies in Virginia. So there's a historical context to it. So people do have a right to fear it. The problem today.
They don't have a right to fear it.
The problem
it's 2023. Look, it's 2023. They don't have no right to fear it. If we have our own little spaces, it would be like 1924. We're not going to live in 1924. We wouldn't base nothing on skin color. We know better. The whole point of history is that you learn from history, so you don't do the same things over and over again. So we know what they did wrong. They tried to base things on skin color, and that's wrong. That's not the right thing to do.
Bad test, like the Blue Vein.
But have you been watching the comments? Have you been reading the comments?
Yes.
And so they're even so basically like what's going on now is like a reverse brown paper bag test. So they're saying like unless you're this dark, you're not getting into the Black Club because I was told.
You know, there was this Reddit subgroup or whatever. And it was it was a safe space for Black people, and literally it was like you had to take a picture of your hand to see if you were dark enough to get in.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I was shook.
That's what I'm talking about.
Are you serious? Wait. And I didn't feel like I would get in. I don't know.
So it's like they just took the.
I'm not sure. But it was weird. I was like, what the hell?
Wait.
Yeah, it was on
Reddit.
Reddit.
For a second.
It was a Reddit. It was a Reddit subgroup. Like you had to take a picture of your hand to see if you were Black enough to get in. I was weird.
That was a real thing.
That's shocking.
No, they do it on here. They make me turn my camera on and then they kick me out all the time.
It's weird.
Especially in the winter time, bro. That shit was wild. Like November, December.
The point of history is to leave it in the past, not carry it with you into the future. Facts. I agree with you. I'm sorry I kicked you off, but I do agree with that comment you just said.
You know, I might make a reach right here, and you know what? You can go ahead and, what's the word? I don't know, just attack me for it, but I feel like honestly, because there is, there's still prevalent issues with racism caused by white people in society. Like there is obviously systematic racism. I feel like another issue is that because mixed people are mixed, and you can tell that a lot of them are mixed, they obviously have the same struggles or similar struggles to fully Black people. But they are mixed, so they're not. So a lot of people are not truly understanding, over the ones that are obviously raised by the white side of their family, why they are going through this issue. And I feel like because racism mostly put on by white people is such an issue in the Black community itself too, because that is why the Black community, and they're on African Americans. Like as a whole, I will see that a lot of African Americans, as someone who's Jamaican, they kind of get hate for being African American, which they can't control that. So I feel like because of the systematic racism and the racism that is mostly brought on by white people, I feel that is kind of the main cause of why a lot of mixed people cannot or feel as though they are accepted in both groups, because even the Black community struggles with a lot of colorism and trdenying people of what they are.
Yep.
Yeah, because we get hate on both sides, because these are two opposing groups. So there's a lot of Black people there's a lot of Black people that don't like white people in the Black community, and then they see that we're half white, and it's like, oh, that's a red flag or some shit. Like, you're gonna be treated different for it, and then it's the same thing in the white community, and it sucks. But okay, I want to talk about. I think the main people who've been attacking these spaces are biracial people themselves. So I do feel like a biracial people
self-hate.
They do a lot of self-hate.
Honestly,
they can't accept that they're biracial, and they just don't like that about themselves. Like, they hate that. And so they don't want to see spaces like this where people are like, you know, we try to just encourage people to be proudly who they are, proudly biracial, not be ashamed of it and not hate themselves. So I think it triggers a lot of people. It triggers a lot of biracial people because a lot of biracial people are very deeply ashamed of being, and I was one of them. I used to hate being biracial. I used to wish I was black. I used to wish I was fully black. I used to hate my white side, white teeth side. I used to hate all of that, you know? So I've been there, done that. But I had to learn how to like love myself. But I think a lot of biracial people are still there. And
Yeah, I do feel.
You guys realize that there's something going on here, not just this group. I was on Clubhouse the other day, and a lot of African American people are advocating to have them separated from Black people who are from other countries. Even if they are born in America, there's something called ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. Because if reparations does get passed, they don't want it to go to the other people who identify as Black. And a lot of African American people do not even consider those people Black. They consider that they have a ancestral connection and diaspora and all that other stuff. And so they're actually advocating politically. They're working on the grounds on this as we speak, which I find very interesting. And I was in an all Black space and they were saying, well, biracial people, mixed race people are about to do the same thing as well. And so it just makes more sense that we have to really gatekeep who is really African American and who is really Black, because they said we don't know the actual numbers of who is really authentically African American, because you have all these people claiming to be part of Black culture, but they're really just, you know, appropriating it, using it. No, but this includes Jamaicans, this includes Haitians,
Dominicans.
I feel
I'm
like
of
it's
Jamaican
too late for
descent, you know, but
reparations.
I totally understand the whole thing. But even if it's too late for reparations, they still want to make sure, like when it comes to scholarships, all these different things, it was meant like for Harvard, most of the people who got in because of the fact that they were minorities, these were people that were African and Caribbean descent. They weren't necessarily always African American. That was a very small percentage. So a lot of African American people are actually, you know, not really benefiting from a lot of these programs. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, the thing that I feel about that is that it's kind of because America is literally the melting pot and it's so late in history to be offering reparations. You cannot pick out who is African American. And another thing is that I know that a lot of African Americans don't like when I say I'm not African American, I am Caribbean. They don't like that. And I see their side of it because for some people it feels diminishing. Other people definitely not, but I have definitely because they say as though, because when I mentioned
I don't know
that,
about you. It's never too late to give me some money. That's all I gotta say on that.
I'm saying it's too late for reparations because we can, like someone said, we cannot see the percentage now. We don't know because it is so mixed. We don't know who is who.
Well, no, it's not that it's not.
No,
it's not that it's so mixed. There's a lot of people who are still African American. It's just that they're saying that they actually want an audit on who is really authentic because it can be done. You know, it's not like they're saying, it's not, a lot of these people didn't really integrate necessarily with African Americans, and now we're all confused on who's really African American.
But not only that.
Some people are Africans.
So long to do that.
Because the main point of this whole thing was some of these people who went to Harvard, they came from middle class, upper middle class. They weren't people who were coming from impoverished communities where they say a lot of African American, their wealth was destroyed because of Black Wall Street. So it goes even further than, you know, reparations. It goes into a whole other nuances. And even in Florida, it already says Caribbean American instead of African American. So it's already been done in other states.
Wait, you're saying that in Florida they have the markdown, like you can say you're Caribbean?
Yes, you can say you're Caribbean American.
I know, I'm from Florida, I know.
Well, I feel but
it all depends on where you are, because, like, for instance, in New York, they have done it a little bit sometimes. It's not always there, but I've seen it like in Caribbean neighborhoods when I used to live in Flatbush. So it all depends on what, the majority area. Like I said, every state is going to be different with these experiences because of, the population. Yeah. And who
I don't think necessarily reparations would be the solution. I feel like we just need or there just needs to be equality. That is,
you don't really have a say in this because you just said you're Caribbean, so you're not getting any money anyway.
This is exactly what they would say.
So go somewhere about that. My family has manumission. My family has manumission papers.
Right.
We have our history. We know there's lists in the Maryland State House of manumission papers and all across our country. So all the slave owners that wanted to get reparations, they had to give a list, like a census. So there's definitely a history of who is there. The list is there. You don't have to be like making up reasons why we don't need to get no money. But thank you.
I got a question about
a Caribbean person, a Caribbean person wouldn't understand this because look, I'm of Caribbean descent as well. But the thing is that when you're in these groups, every Caribbean person will say...
Hold on, somebody mute their mic. I can't hear you. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know why someone's doing that. Every Caribbean person will say, I think it's late for reparations. Very few African American people will say that, and it's because of the fact that the Caribbean Americans don't understand the history, as in J.E. said.
I definitely don't think that's true because there's many African Americans that have said that it's too late for reparations. They need something more than that. There needs to be
I'm just going based on what I saw in Clubhouse and what just transpired right in here. I'm not taking offense to it because, like I said, I'm not African American as well. But the interesting thing is that and I can see that my family did exist in Louisiana and the Carolinas at least 200 years ago on my white and African side of the family. So would I be entitled to maybe, I don't know, maybe if I brought up all these documents or something, but most Caribbean people wouldn't be able to do that, right? But it's not really just about the actual reparations. There's many other things and nuances about this whole thing. And that's why I was saying what J.E. said was a great point, because a lot of people don't know that there are people who still have the proof of what they're owed. You understand what I'm saying?
No, yeah, 100%. And I don't feel like, I'm not saying that people shouldn't get reparations for the people saying that, oh, I just want money. Honestly, I don't. I think it's well deserved for the African Americans that were here. If reparations were given in the Caribbean, that'd be one thing. I honestly don't think I would even earn that either because I was born in America. So I honestly don't care about reparations. I think true equality is what needs to be given here in America. Most of my friends are African American, and along with some of my cousins on the side. There's just obviously,
so
like I said,
got a question. Let me
I
ask
agree,
the
but
panel.
I'll still take the money. I like mine.
But listen, I got a question for the panel.
For sure.
I got a question for the panel. Mm-hmm. So do y'all think if we get reparations, that would ease racial tensions between white people and black people? Because those definitely racial tensions.
It depends on how we get it.
Biracial people. Because that's when we're forced to pick a side. We're forced to have to align with this or that, or those racial tensions.
No one is going to get an individual check, though. That's the thing.
It wouldn't ease racial tensions, but it would ease the tensions in my day-to-day life, if that makes sense.
I feel like it wouldn't ease the tensions because there are so many people, specifically white people, who would have an issue with it, saying that
you think my tax money doesn't go to you. It would make them mad, huh? They'd be big mad.
They'd be mad. I feel like a lot of, honestly, I feel like a lot of people of different ethnic groups in the who are Caribbean, because we obviously claim Caribbean. I mean, duh, I'm not going to say I'm African American. And I feel that those reparations, money wise, is definitely reserved for African Americans, or no, deserved for them. So I definitely don't want any of that. It's not mine, obviously. I just feel like that would cause, I feel like a bigger issue because, money is one of the few evils that causes problems. And I feel like white people would have a huge issue with that.
I think the only people
let me hear from or Michael or somebody. Hold on. Daenerys, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, I just said I think the only people who have a problem with it is racist white people.
Right.
Yeah, we don't.
I hear a lot of white people, screaming for reparations for black people in America, And so I think it's only the racist people that will have a big issue
Well,
with
yeah, of
that.
course,
And
just
some
the
of them,
racist one. But I feel like we have to realize that the people that are kind of running the system, this, that, and the third, are the racist white people. They are the ones who are going to be having the issues with
yeah, but it might get to
Yeah,
a
they.
point. It might be like
Yeah,
for them to say, okay, we gave you reparations. Now can we just get over this? That might be what it comes down to. And if the reparations are satisfied people, black people, then I think they love it. They wouldn't care.
I'm for reparations. I hope we do get reparations. And yeah, I think it'd be a good
Do you
thing.
think
I think
that?
Yeah,
But
no,
I did have
reparations
a
it'd be
would
a good
question
thing
about
in a step
biracial.
direction.
I don't care about the racist white people. I pay me.
I'm just saying my only worried would be is that would be an attack on the black community, because I have seen that a lot of racist ones, they don't like to recognize that people are there are different ethnic backgrounds in the black community, and I feel like that just not just for the black community as a whole, but I would feel like if if African Americans they were to receive those reparations, I just feel like that would cause like a whole other issue, and I like high key worry for what issues that would cause. Like, I don't want to see anyone else obviously have blood.
I feel like you're saying.
Well, we still get paid.
But they've done it.
We still get paid. I'm not worried because I mean they can be mad and they can wage a whole holy war for all I care. But the check will be in the bank, right? That's the end result. Yes.
Period.
Yeah, that's how that ends. Right? Well, then, yeah, and then I will use that money to defend myself.
Honestly, I feel like the steps that should be taken would be true equality and then reparations, or like a reach towards true equality, because once we can get more people to see that, especially in America, that we are truly equal, all of us, then it would have less of a toll. And all the racist people are kind of old and decrepit at this point, but they still are somehow the people in power. I feel like the first step would to minimize the violence afterwards would be towards true equality, and then somehow start bringing up reparations.
I think the reparations first would help, especially since they all dying off and everything first. I definitely think that the reparations would come first, because at the end of the day, equality is kind of that's. I don't know. Like, it's hard to say like we're gonna make things equal when you have one side at a disadvantage. I mean, there's a nice little meme out there where it's like two trees, the trees are the same height, and then the ladder. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's like we're not afforded the same opportunities.
Yeah, it's equality versus equity.
Like, I mean, I mean, even looking at something like college, I mean, could you imagine someone in like the early 70s saying, "Hey, mom, I made it to college," and she's like, "Okay, that's good for you." He goes, "How do I do it?" She goes, "I don't know. I wasn't allowed."
Yeah.
He goes, "Okay, I'll just ask this white lady." You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like you got to almost get lucky as a black person in America or know somebody. It just don't really work out the way that it goes. And I mean, even for biracials, it applies. I mean, Rosa Parks is very light skinned. We have other people who are light skinned. It's all the black community. But for some reason, we divide it now because of discrimination and stuff.
Yeah,
that's all I'm about to say. How you
but we all should get paid.
Biracial?
I don't know. I'm just learning about this.
I forgot
How do you quantify it? How you qualify or quantify being biracial?
I don't know.
For example,
it's a good question.
But what I can say,
you got one white parent, one black parent, or one, just two different race of parents, right? That's what biracial mean, right?
I don't know, but we should all get paid.
The one thing I forgot to bring up about the reparations, which this was going to be my main argument, I just completely forgot about it, is that, you know how there's a lot of white people who say, "Oh yes, I am blah, blah, blah native," right? I feel like if they were to give out reparations, because I feel like the government is obviously pro-white, there would be some type of loophole where if you are like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think if they were 1/16 native or something like that, or if they had a grandparent, something like that, then they got reparations with land, I think it was. That is the word. Yeah. I feel like too many people would start claiming that they are 1/16th, and that would take away hugely from the African American group. And that I don't think that.
Well, at
Well,
that
they've
point,
already
at
been
least they're
fighting.
trying.
that
At least
you'd
they're
have to live
trying
like
at
a
that
black
point.
person.
Like I'd rather cross. I'd rather cross the bridge of who gets the money I'd rather cross that bridge when we get there. At least at that point, there's money on the table. Right now, we ain't got shit.
But the thing is, no one's going to get an individual check. What they are thinking of is like, because I've heard discussions on it from Marianne Williamson and whatever, because she's the one that really pushes for it. That they would set up like a trust fund foundation for colleges, maybe Black institutions, that sort of thing. So it's not like everyone gets like a check.
What?
How about they just give me an 850 credit score and I'll be fine? Just do that for me, and then we're on equal ground.
The thing that I think about is when you say, you said like the reparations, you said they would go to like Black colleges, right? Then that wouldn't necessarily be going to the African Americans, because like, for example, the college that I have applied for is FAMU. And there is a huge Caribbean and African American population there. As I said, Florida is a big mix between African American.
Well, this is why I said that the African Americans are actually advocating for who is truly African American now to put on the census. So what would happen is, let's say if you wanted to go to this school, you would have to pay for it, whereas a real African American person, they wouldn't have to pay for it. So that's what they're trying to do.
I see.
I like that.
Yeah. So they're having this argument that you guys brought up about the whole Indian reservation thing. They've been having this argument. Native. They've been having this argument for, I want to say, the last 150 years, because back in the day there were a lot of Native people that were on the reservation. When the people came around, they would mark them as other, or they would mark them as colored. And so a lot of people who are probably mixed now with Black, but they started out really being Native, they aren't allowed to get any of the land, anything like that. Especially with the real Natives, they're pushing them out because they don't want them to get any of that land, because they think it's basically just for
evil.
them or whatever. But
That's
it was
evil.
the census who did it a long time ago, because you got to think about it. It was the whole population of people that were either mixed with Black and white, and then there was some that were mixed Indian and Black, and vice versa. It was mixed all around. And these people, when they tried to claim their heritage and check that box, the census people wouldn't let them. They had to claim other, and so they've lost their whole identity because of this whole thing.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Your identity's erased.
Yeah, I'm seeing that the Native community is obviously under attack still. Honestly, I just feel like there needs to be a whole restart. Like, they just need whole new reparations. They need all, I can't say all, because a lot of the land is already taken over. Actually, all of it's kind of taken over. But land should definitely be given to those who are still in the reserves and who are obviously true natives. I don't think that because it is so long and so many people it was so long ago and so many people have lied about being native for the reparations, I feel like we just need to give it the 100% to the people who are still like obviously native, not those who are claiming, oh, my grandparent was blah blah blah. Like, I don't think that they should get that like at all.
So have you heard of the Lumbees? Have any of you guys heard of them?
Yeah, the Lumbee, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So, they claim to be Native, right? And they've been trying to, get their, I guess, their tribe recognized, and they keep getting pushed out because whenever they do a DNA test, what ends up popping up is African American and white, but they claim that they're Indian or whatever.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's funny because it's a whole community of them. I think in either North or South Carolina, like the whole town, they look very racially ambiguous. They all look like they could be brothers or sisters, right? And a lot of them are mixed with, of course, Black people or whatever, but a lot of them are racist against Black people. Like, they don't like them, so they split apart from them.
The racist.
during that Jim Crow era and right after slavery, they kind of found their own places of land and they just made it within each other. I don't know if it was cousins or just other mixed
It was a
people.
mixed race community, just like the
What?
Creoles and the yeah, I've heard about them. There was the Melungeons as well. Like there
Yeah,
was
the
all these little
Melungeons.
mixed race communities popping up here and there. Hmm.
Yeah, but the Lumbees, they're not claiming to be mixed race. They're claiming to be Indian,
Which
and
is
that's the thing about
crazy.
it.
That
It's the
is
crazy thing about it. That's why in they're racist against black people. Like when BLM came through their town, they were throwing glass
what?
bottles at them.
Hold
They
on.
were
Somebody
saying
said
racial
Creoles are
slurs.
mixed race. The word Creole literally means like mixed race. So
Yeah, if you're Creole, you're either black, white,
yeah, that literally means
Spanish,
mixed.
People
Indian.
are changing the definition all the time of that one, so it depends on what year, time period, and people get confused. So it's like a whole long story for another.
You can,
And then
you
there's
can,
Creoles. There's
you can be monoracial and be in the Creole
It's a
community.
culture,
So,
yeah, but the
Yeah,
word
you
Creole
can.
literally means
yeah,
like mixed. But it is a
yep.
yeah.
culture that you can't be, not to be mixed, but literally.
But there's a big thing between the
You don't
two
have to be mixed to be Creole, but Creole does mean mixed.
Creole doesn't mean
because
So
mixed,
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
French Creoles, right? They basically came down from Canada and settled in the Louisiana area, and they're mostly white and Indian. And then you have the black and white Creoles who
Mhm.
came from like Haiti, or they were the free people of color during that
Mhm.
time or whatever.
Jaune
And
de
Yep.
couleur is what they
right,
call in
and so
French.
there's
Mhm.
so when you say Creole, people kind of get confused because they don't know which Creole you're talking about or
Right, the
whatever.
Louisiana
mine
Creoles,
came from
the Haitian
Canada.
Creoles, or there's
Occasion.
Carolina Creoles. There's a lot of different
They're Acadian. They came from Canada. Mine.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
there you go.
Beyonce's
Mhm.
her side, her mother's side of the family, they're
No,
Creole.
ma'am, they're not Haitian. They're Creole
Well,
No,
some people are
so they're
mix of
because
Creole.
both.
they're
Some people actually
because
have
they're
Creole and Cajun mixed
yeah
together. Yeah.
yeah.
Cajun Creole.
Mine were black.
You don't
Mine
know
were
what you're
black. My
talking about. Some
grandmother,
cultures that
yeah,
nothing.
she looked white, but
I know
she
what the
told
word
me she was
means.
black.
So
I
yeah,
just said I know
that
what the
brings
word means. That's all I
She
said.
married black.
Well, that's
that brings
because when America took
Ramon is
over
literally
Louisiana, they
Creole.
had to pick a side. But like a generation
Not all of
over,
them are from Not all the ones that came from Canada are Cajun. Some
right?
are Creole.
Because what happened with Louisiana is once America took over, you had a lot of these families got split apart because now you had to choose were you black
whether
or
you were
white,
black or white, yes,
and then they
because
would beat them to actually speak English, so destroy the language of the Creole French language that they were
yeah,
speaking.
Cajuns
Give
are
them a
white.
French
She
or
knows what she's
Spanish,
talking about.
yeah.
yeah, and and back then they used to have quadroon balls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where the Frenchmen would basically go and pick out a quadroon girl who would basically be, like her pet basically. And the guy, it was basically so that if a guy wanted to be a bachelor for a long period of time and wanted to play around, he would get him a Creole woman and they
Yep.
might have children, but he would pay for everything. He would set her up in the house in the quarters and they would live pretty nicely or whatever.
Have you
But
seen the Feast of All Saints? It's a movie about that. It's a pretty good
I
movie.
think so.
It's a
Yeah.
good movie.
My
Yeah, it's
cousin is
all about
that. The mom in that movie is my cousin actually.
It's a good movie. It's all about that, and it's very interesting, and it's sad, really. It's just sad that was the case, but it's I think it's important history is what I'm saying, of these different like ethnic groups and subgroups that happen in America, and I don't think like their heritage and culture, and I do think that we have to accept the fact that there's always going to be more like ethnic groups being created.
Oh, yeah.
That's nothing new. You know what I'm saying? Like us, like biracial mixed race people, like we're going to create our own little ethnic groups. And they're not harming nobody else. Like the Creoles didn't harm nobody. The Lumbee are not like harm. You said I don't know about that. I don't know.
A lot of them are racist. Not all
The
of them.
Creoles did harm them,
But a lot of
to
them are
some
racist.
extent. They had
like the
good things
Proctors.
to them, but they also did some
It's
harm.
going to be like anything else then.
They did a lot of
Bad,
enslaving
that's gay
too.
human beings or
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah.
But I do think we do need to have like our own little term or something that just encompasses all of who we are. and just learn from the past so that we don't, do the same
There's a
things
lot of
that
damage. There's a
Again,
lot
how
of
do you
damage that
carve?
comes out of the Black community too. So I mean, it's like the Black community is not bad per se, but bad people do bad things. Bad things happen
I
everywhere.
think it's projecting. I feel like it's projecting. Like I was saying earlier, I feel like because we're all kind of being targeted by a group, I feel like it's projecting almost.
We're being targeted by two groups.
Well, I'm saying I feel like
Oh,
the main target, I will say, is kind of white people. That is where that is the main issue. And so I'm saying that because of that, Black people tend to project those issues and feel like you're not part of this group. That is what I'm trying to say.
I don't understand.
I hear where you're coming from. To be fair, I do want to be fair here. Because with those people in the Black community who do that, that's a very, very, very small, just to be, and I don't want to minimalize biracial issues, but it's like, it's not really a lot of Black people that do that. They exist, yes, but most Black people, in my experience, which it could already be minimal, my experience, Black people are accepting. It's just for me personally, it just doesn't feel like there's really room for me to stand in it, and actually like speak my mind, because I feel like I'm taking up space that belongs to someone else. I feel like
you have to follow all the rules and the code of conduct of language around them. So if you're not comfortable,
I mean, I'll put it this way: if I wanted to speak, I probably could. Like, they're not like. There are people on TikTok. Don't let the TikTok crowd fool you, because they're a different breed. But if you really wanted to speak up in a Black space, they well, I mean, if you look white, probably not. But for the most part, they would let me.
Well,
they would let me. But I don't feel like that's fair to. I don't feel like that's fair to people in the community. I feel like when biracial people represent Black people, they're kind of stealing the spotlight. Like it seems like we're driving attention to be the face of the Black community because of the place because we're in America. It's just not right, is what I'm saying.
I 100% see that. I don't think that you should ever feel like you're intruding on a space if they are accepting you. But I understand where you're saying you can't be the face. That makes sense though, because you are biracial.
I agree with that too.
I feel
the thing about it is, when it comes to intruding on a space, it's more or less that oh my goodness, I hurt myself. But when I say intruding on a space, it's more so that the framework of America is extremely racist. So if I intrude on a space, and it's not that I'm worried about what other people think of me, it's that if I intrude on a space, it gives other people racist a footway. And then it's when you have the small portion of Black people who are mean, they're mean mostly because they kind of feel, stuff is being taken from them. Not from us, but from white
hear
people.
that for sure. I hear that because I remember a couple years ago when I was we were having this thing at my high school. It was basically a cultural day, and I remember hearing someone saying that they need more lighter skinned representation in it. And I was just because it was a cultural walk, so anyone of any culture could have walked, but it was in more so Black cultures. So if you were Black and it was your culture, so there was multiple people that were doing it. It was Jamaicans, Haitians, and Africans of, I'm not sure of their descent, so I won't speak on that. But I just know that there were multiple people doing it, and the most effed up thing I remember hearing was oh, we need more in representation. And that's where I feel like if you are mixed, and they are inviting you in that space, that is one thing. But I feel like you shouldn't feel like you're taking over or being the face. Especially if they are accepting you, is what I feel like. I can see you saying oh, you don't want to be the face, because there is people that feel like you should definitely be the face, or you're trying to do that, the person who is saying they should have been more included. I mean, she could have gone if she wanted to. I don't think that we were.
Was she mixed? Was she a biracial girl?
She looked biracial. Cause
I think she probably look, because I think biracial people do deserve representation of people who are biracial and claim they're biracial and all that. But I don't think it should be based on skin color, because I do think that all different types of representation.
This is where it gets dicey.
Yeah, that's the question I was about to ask.
She was because she was biracial. Like they had lighter skinned people up there. But I'm just saying, like literally anyone could have done it. Like you had to volunteer and say you wanted to do it. They weren't just scouting out kids and saying, "Do you want to do this?" Because I'm pretty sure. Did it.
But she watched.
This is actually
she
extremely important.
If she wanted to, she could have. Like that was a question.
She could have did it.
And Dianero touched on this earlier, and I want to touch on it again because there's another girl in the comments who touched on it, and it seems like it varies between person to person. But we need to get this out of the way. What is a biracial? What is a biracial group about? Because we don't really have a specific culture attached to our Blackness. So it's like, we talked about this before too, but I want to like open up the chat to it. Like, what does biracial even mean? And
how do you qualify?
Before you guys start on this, I just want to say.
All right, thank you. I appreciate
Alrighty.
you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Have a nice night, guys.
You too.
Have a good night. So to me, I've been thinking about this. What does it mean? Like, we don't know what it means. We don't know who these people. There's no like social construct around it. You know what I'm saying? There's like no. It's up in the air, kind of. We gotta kind of define it for ourselves and kind of say.
Right.
To me though, okay, because I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've come to the realization, it's like, okay, so I have European and African ancestry that makes up who I am. So I'm like, okay, I'm a Euro-African. That's the term I made up, or we kind of agreed on. Like, I'm Euro-African person. Like, that's my ethnic group. That encompasses who I am fully. So that's not based on, because there's people think of biracial. They think of a first gen. You have a monoracial parents of two different races. That's what people think of when they think of biracial. But that doesn't affect your set, like you Ramon, so your parents are biracial, and then your parents like third, second, fourth gen. You still have the experience of having monoracial parents, like they're two different races. You don't have that. But you're still
that's what I was about to say.
How are you going to define monoracial?
Because for example, my grandparents on both sides are mixed race, right? And half of my family is like brown, like a reddish brown color with, they quote unquote nice red hair or whatever. And then I have on the other side of my family who are very bright. They have either green or blue eyes, and they have blonde or red hair, right? But none of their parents directly was white. There was either a mixing of the
They're
two.
like multi-generationally mixed, right?
It's a bunch of mixed people marrying mixed people, but
right.
I think all those people.
So then Dianero would belong to this theoretical biracial community, correct?
Yeah, definitely. You're
100%.
multi-generationally mixed. You're like Euro-African.
And most of our aunts and uncles and parents and everybody in the family, everybody. That's why I keep saying, like, it's just black, bro. Like, we're all mixed. Black means mixed. That's what it always meant.
Right, that's what I was saying. Black and African, I think there's a difference between black and African American.
Black means mixed.
Yeah, because when they stopped the slave trade, when they stopped the slave trade in 1804, they just started essaying everybody and then rebreeding back in the mulattoes that they created in the first place, and that's when they came up with all the classifications and the pedigree charts. So like, there was a long time between like 1804 and 1865 that like not that many fresh blood was coming into our families from Africa.
So
they shut that shit down.
Every African American person is mixed with something.
Well, no, not necessarily.
The majority are 25%. The majority are 25%.
The majority.
Alrighty, so
There's
Or
actually some
the average?
discrepancy. There's actually
Maybe
some
the average.
discrepancy in the African American community on DNA testing because they're finding out that depending on where in the United States you're from, like in South Carolina,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who have a high percentage of 90 and 95% African descent. Right.
And that's because they were smuggling slave or enslaved people in between the time they were supposed to stop in 1808 or whatever.
Yeah.
It was all that underground slave trade shit that like the rich kids would still keep going until the Civil War.
So now I'm curious because we could go into the history all day.
Another thing I found interesting is that in the Black group that I was in on Clubhouse, they mentioned that a lot of the light-skinned people, they were only marrying each other for a very long time.
The Proctors.
Right. So that helped a lot of people to actually keep a dominant Black gene in certain parts of the South, in certain, like counties and neighborhoods. And so that, and then later on, like, I guess you would say maybe like 30 years ago, a lot of lighter skinned people started dating dark skinned people. So now it's a little bit more integrated, but that's why, because if you look at it, and I'm not trying to go by skin color, but the majority of African American people are actually not light skinned. That's just what's promoted in the media.
But light compared to
this is my concern right now.
If you go to North
most people here are light skinned.
If you go
we're going to go into history and it's going to go down a rabbit hole and it can go on forever.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to finish that, because I go to South Carolina a lot because my brother's father's from there. And when I'm walking around South Carolina, people know that I'm not from South Carolina because most Black people in South Carolina are predominantly very dark skinned and have a very different phenotype from what I have. So when I'm in North Carolina, I don't really have that issue because in North Carolina, most people are, coming all different colors, and there's a lot of light-skinned people over there and mixed race and Hispanic and whatever. But in South Carolina, it's like a whole different ball game,
Yeah, it was the same in Georgia. When I lived in Georgia, there's not that many mixed people there. Like I was in a
South. That's what I said. I went to South Carolina. I lived there half of the year.
No, when I was living in Georgia, I was living like in Atlanta metropolitan area, like in Atlanta, Georgia. In the Black community there's very few like mixed race people. Like there are not too many of them. They were like a small minority. So most people, I could tell they're not really mixed. Like they were fully Black. Like you could tell they probably have admixture, like a little bit of admixture, but
most people look like Whoopi Goldberg.
It's because of the Jim Crow laws back then.
Imagine everyone looking like Whoopi Goldberg, right? And very few people look like Beyonce. That's what I'm saying.
Right, so like places like Virginia and New Orleans, they have a lot of light skin, right? So if you go up to Virginia, like Virginia had one of the biggest mulatto populations, but Maryland was different. And so like the difference between like Baltimore and DC is like the perfect contrast because it's a straight like color division between like, the wealthy and the poor because that's what they were doing back then. But yeah, it's
where I'm at right now, I'm in the DC and Maryland, Virginia area, and there is a whole lot of mixed people. I mean,
that's Mulatto territory.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
That's a Mulatto state. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's everywhere or whatever, and that's what
think Pharrell.
A lot of people from the South that were mixed, they moved up here during the Great Migration. Some of them who were really, really light and could pass, they would move up here and they to the north and they would try to pass as white.
Right.
And then some of them would just move up and some of them would go to New York, mix with Dominicans, mix with Puerto Ricans. I got some of them in my family. So it's in the South, they didn't go for that. They didn't go for that, period. Especially after, doing Jim Crow, they didn't go for it. They didn't mix at all.
Do you remember Eartha Kitt, guys? The famous actress.
Yeah.
You know what they said to her? You know what they said to her in South Carolina? Get that yellow gal out my house. Like that's how it was in South Carolina.
And her daughter Kit too. Like if her daughter Kit, she looks almost
She looks
completely white. I can tell that she's mixed, but she looks almost completely white. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's because
the reason
her
Indiana
father was white, and then her mother, Eartha Kitt, was mixed as well. So
Right.
that's the question I was asking, because
well we're already in the rabbit hole, but I'm gonna try. Yeah, we already fell into the rabbit hole.
We already fell into it.
Well, that's how you answer it, because the thing, it's not really that hard. It's not that deep. It's very easy, because he just said Virginia is a mulatto state. South Carolina is a whole different ball game. It's really not that hard, guys. It's very simple.
But so like the reason Indiana has Hoosier, it was a play on something about Hoosier runes, which was a play on blue vein quadroons. And so these people, and this was during slavery, by the way. So like these people were trying to escape slavery. So they were passing as white, and the founding fathers of Indiana, one of them is a blue vein quadroon, and his family, like that's how that all came about supposedly. But that's what it means to like separate.
What I mean by rabbit hole is that we're too stuck on how we got here instead of what are we going to do about it. Like, what are we going to do about all this?
But
the battle isn't. The battle isn't to repeat it.
We don't have to worry about repeating the past, because number one, we're not the Blue Vervain Society. We're not doing.
You have to worry about repeating the past, because we're on the verge. We're on the verge of it right now.
Right.
No, because
because
the motive.
Because you just said they were doing a reverse brown paper bag test, bro.
Right, but
we are on the verge.
We're on the verge of it right now, so we need to think about not how we got here.
The reason why I don't think we're on the verge is because number one, our motives are pure. Because the person who is actually orchestrating.
Pure based on what? We really have.
I'm going to answer. The reason why I'm saying it's not the same, because we have pure intentions. We're not saying the Blue Vervain Society had set themselves apart because they wanted to appease Caucasian people, and that's why they had a paper bag test. We're not saying you have to look mixed to be a part of this group. We're saying that as long as you are proud of being mixed and you don't want to pick a side, you can be you. That's what this whole group is all about.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that. But here's the thing. When you build a group, I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't have a group, but when you build a group and you've created the premise, like you have to understand that when I asked what is a biracial, we just outlined that the Black community is currently biracial, or they have admixture. So it's like, and then we have to talk about a struggle, because there is a struggle going on here.
Well,
one way or another.
The community doesn't want to accept that they are mixed, so that's why we're saying that if
there's a struggle on both ends. When we're saying that the blacks don't accept, so when we say that the blacks don't accept, we have to look at the bigger picture here. Accept what? Like we're saying like, oh, they don't accept like the mixture or whatever. What is the mixture if we're all mixed? So what we're moving towards.
Caucasian people can say the same thing, but I have an answer. The answer is this, right?
I haven't even given you the rest. What I'm basically saying is, based on what is it based on? Like, are they discriminating based on the color of your skin, your hair? What is it about you specifically that makes you feel like you don't have a voice in the community? Because for me, I already told you that I don't feel like I should be a space or take up the spaces. What are you struggling with in the Black community?
You know what I struggle with? Oh, go ahead, Ramon. Go ahead, Giovanni.
Yeah. So it's, to me, I didn't have to struggle with it because
not Giovanni, Dionero. What are you struggling with in the community?
I was trying to answer you.
I'm not struggling with anything in the Black community. I'm doing very fine in the Black community.
No, he was asking me. He was asking Giovanni. My name is Giovanni.
Oh,
what I was saying is what I was sorry, Dinero. What I was saying was for me it wasn't really much of a struggle, but I do understand that a lot of Black people would ask me what I was mixed with all the time. Or
hold on, I want to speak on my struggle. I want to tell you about my struggle.
Okay,
the struggle is the racial tension between white tea and Black people. That leaves us feeling very distressed because most of us become very pro-Black. But when we go into pro-Black spaces, it's like, oh, they talk very derogatory towards mixed race people because we are half white. And it's like that's traumatizing.
But it's not the majority.
So halfway based on what? Is it based on our skin?
And it's traumatizing
based
to me.
on our white moms.
And a lot of people are,
sometimes.
and a lot of people, in these pro-black spaces, because we want to, be on the black side and choose that side. We choose black. And then when we do that, it's like, well, you can't represent us. You can't speak for us. You can't do none of this. You can't be the face because you're, So that's it's a struggle because it's like,
but
just
at the same time, they want us to be the savior.
But listen, just navigating why I started identifying as biracial? It was out of respect for black people because there was a whole lot of black people saying we don't want biracial people representing black people. And I'm like, because they were being actively replaced in the media. And so I'm like, okay, cool. It was out of respect for black people to make sure that their image is not erased so we could have, and our identity is not erased at the same time. So I think it was a win. To me, it was a win-win. It's a win-win. It's not against the black community where I'm trying to separate and be like, no, it's actually for the black community because we sort of want it's harmful. We know it's a harmful ideology that erases the black image and erases our identity. So I'm thinking win-win. I'm thinking making sure, hey, we want black people accurately represented. We want, people who are mixed and biracial accurately represented. And it's a win-win. And we can have a space where we could talk about issues. We don't have to go in black spaces and talk about biracial issues because they're not going to relate to that. And that's okay. I'm not going to go into monoracial spaces talking about biracial issues. I would never do that. I would never want to take or center myself in those spaces. That's why we have these spaces so we can center ourselves and not take away from anybody else's space. So that's all I'm saying.
So we have to speak on the issues in the times to come. Are the judgments based on the color of our skin? Is it based on our hair?
I don't think it's based on our skin color. Honestly, I think it's not based on our skin color. It's just based on the fact that we have, white tea blood. And it's been very, we all know the history. We all know that that's been very, the history between these two groups have been horrible. So we know that black people have some form of mixture in them, but it's like admixture, right? So would a light skinned black person because it comes from grade.
Hey, bro, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
All right, so this is the question that they don't like to answer, and I asked my dad, I asked my aunts that are still alive. Okay, so do two mulattoes make a black person or another mulatto?
Who makes another mulatto?
Right.
Yeah, another mulatto.
So light skin are just when light skin came about is because mulatto was taken off the census in 1920 with the 1 drop rule.
Exactly.
So everybody became black, and then there was light skin black and dark skin black, but everybody was black. And so now we're at this time. My dad was a mulatto, but he called me a mulatto, not understanding that he was a mulatto, and that's why I came out so white. Well, if they're all monoracial black, why did I come out so white? But they're not.
Right.
My son is very white.
What happens if you, J.E., what happens if you marry a Caucasian person? What will the
That would be an octaroon. Octaroon, like Homer Plessly.
Right. And
Homer Plessly was an octaroon.
Right. And let's say you.
But the propaganda picture, if you Google his name and look at the image, it paints him as the darkest Marcus Garvey, dark black person.
What I'm trying to do is set the parameters here, and I know it sounds mean for me to say that, but when there's a struggle being identified and you're trying to build a community, it has to be built on or in regards to the struggle. Right. So when we talk about this girl said that light skin does not mean mixed, but would they not be a part of a biracial community or not? What do we say to that?
Yeah, I asked my dad that in 2000. Why doesn't he identify on the census now if I have to identify as biracial or 2 or more races or whatever it was?
So
he wasn't allowed to.
So this is serious because if they're not a part of the biracial struggle and they're blatantly biracial, then what's going on here?
It's because they chose a side. Some people were forced to choose a side. They grew up that way. They
didn't have an option at the time.
Right. When you're set in your ways, it's hard to really just switch over like that. Right. But this group makes sense for people who are not stuck in their ways and have a different experience from people from 1930. You know what I'm saying?
But look at it from a social, but look at it from an experiment. What if it was an experiment to see what are they going to do if they can get a little bit more freedom? Would they turn their back? And that's what like Brother Legend's saying. Like, but that's the hypocrisy that goes into it. If we are Black, then we should be allowed to speak equally on our terms about what goes on in our lives, about our self-determination, what happened to us being Black people. But not a lot of Black people, well, I mean, okay, I'll say half that I run into allow me to do that.
Right.
So
Well,
here's what I'm getting at. The Black community, whether we end this live or not, is at the brink of a divide. And whether people see it or not is beyond me. But the Black community is at a divide. The question is, what do we do about it? Do we try to put the pieces back together and try and become one again? Or do we just break it apart and accept what's happening? You know, and it seems like either one I'm fine with, but if a community is to be built, it has to be done in a way that emphasizes the struggle, or you would just be breaking down the Black community needlessly.
Right. So like if we separate from the Black community in this theoretical way, right? Do we take all the accomplishments that actual mixed race people did, like the NAACP and Rosa Parks?
That is the question. You can't take those accomplishments. You can't take
I know, man. We're not taking anything, but like, right?
Well,
but like, we're not just going to be off on our own. Like we're just like this ethnogenesis that just created out of nowhere in 2025 or whatever. You see what I'm saying?
I think it's really about justice.
Like our history doesn't just start tomorrow. That's our history
but
still.
I'm saying, look, I think that we should reclaim our history. Not saying that we should take away accomplishments from the. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
a lot of our history is in the Black
our history of like, hey,
that's what I'm saying. So our history is Black history.
It should be. But
the history wouldn't be so important.
Yeah, our history is Black.
Isn't our history also in the Black community as well? I mean, because we're sharing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The history is Black. The history is Black history. So that the history is not important. What's important is we're at the brink of a divide. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to unite, or are we going to divide?
The real truth is there's no way that we can fix it. People have been trying to fix this forever. And, you know, there's people who want to actually destroy racism. And, you know, that would take centuries, you know, like it just can't happen.
Okay, so you're for a divide. So how are we going to do this? Like how are we going to do this?
I'm just saying, because the thing is that this is a different time period. There's a lot of people who are proud to be both. Nobody wants to be forced into a box, because if we stay, then we're telling other people who don't want to stay to pick a side, right? Some people are just going to be like, no, I'm just going to be me. But then other people are going to force them to pick a side because now there is no actual box that says mixed race. The government has already decided to say one drop rule is out the window because now you can choose more than one box. So the fact that the government has given us this opportunity means that the process has already started.
Why are they still counting?
But you gotta realize why are they doing that?
Yeah, why are they still
They're
counting?
doing that because there were a lot of people who didn't have the same experiences as, you know, regular Black people. And that's why this thing came about.
So what is the foundation of this? The foundation of this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the foundation of this is that, you know, biracial people don't want to be stuck in one thing or the other. We just want to be ourselves, right?
Right.
So what does that look like? In a community, what would that look like? Does this look like only light-skinned people, or we say that darker-skinned people are in it?
No.
But let's be honest. Would a darker-skinned biracial person in the Black community feel like they don't belong?
They wouldn't have the same
probably wouldn't have
problems.
the same struggle, maybe.
Not at all.
Yeah, so they don't share the struggle, right?
Right.
So then why would they want to leave a community?
But they would still, but they would still feel like they could express all of who they are, right? They would still want to not deny one half of themselves. So even if, no matter what they look like, just like, you know, more white presenting biracials, they don't want to deny half of themselves based on what they look like. So I do think they should have, no matter what you present as, you should have a right to totally embrace all of who you are and have a term and have something for yourself that embraces all of who you are and it lifts all of it and not makes you feel like, oh, you are based on what you only look like. So I think
the bottom line is the person who created
racism is a decent foundation.
The people.
So that's already okay, I guess.
So I wanted to address something. It says y'all not gonna divide because biracials contributed to the Black community, not the biracial community. So I think that's what this is all about. You know, it's us like actually building a little community for ourselves because we have contributed a lot to the Black community, and we should all be very proud of that. Right? But it's like we should have just build a little bit of something for ourselves, like a little, maybe like an organization or something that we could have when need be, when biracial people need it. You know, we can't.
I don't think is this community its own community, or is it a sub part of the Black community?
It's like a sub part of the community. It's not like, because
like a subculture.
It's like a little subgroup. It's like a little sub part.
Gotcha.
Wait. But if you
I think we're still.
And these are the terms that have to be defined early. I know it seems like I'm giving y'all a hard time.
No, you're good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
If it's a sub, wait. How can it be a subgroup if you said that biracial is not just people with Black ancestry? You understand what I'm saying?
But that's the trick, bro.
But if we talk about like the Euro-Afric people, like people who are mixed white and Black, that's like its own little subgroup, I guess. You know,
Black and Asian, people who are Mexican and
do you ever call? Yeah, hold on. Well, do you ever call Native American and white people biracial?
No, but I'm talking about.
Hold on, all of Mexicans are biracial.
Right, but a lot of
there were some Black people who argued with me on other lines.
But like when we say biracial here in America, we know we're talking about Black and white, right?
But what about Chinese and white who are called Asian?
Some people are Asian.
We don't call them that, really. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's what I'm saying. It's like biracial.
Interesting question. Where did you draw the line?
That's why I say quadroon all the time.
Mulatto.
So you're saying this group is really just for people of African and European descent?
Okay, so that's where we draw the line.
We need a term for ourselves.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Reclaim Mulatto then, because it's going to be a majority Hispanic country in the future. Anyway.
But should we come up with a new name as a way of symbolizing we're not repeating history, or is mulatto fine?
Hey, if people can call themselves
I dug on some words earlier from Igbo and Wolof.
Black people don't all call themselves the N-word. That's only a subset of people.
But
some Black people don't even like it.
The lie is in America, because my family's from the Caribbean and Latin America, and no one was offended by the term mulatto. That is an American statement that just recently everyone's saying, "Oh, this was offensive." It was never offensive.
If it's a half Black, half white kind of community, if it's an American community, shouldn't the American biracial people be the ones to decide if it offends them or not?
Well, that's
right. I agree.
For that.
Well, the
to
reason
me, it's
why
not offensive, honestly.
Right.
If we, especially, I don't think it's offensive to me.
And I'm not saying that anyone's right or wrong. I just feel like it needs to be discussed if y'all gonna do it.
Well, the problem
is there's
dispute
about the etymology of mulatto, because some of it says it goes back to mulatto, which means mixed in Arabic, because Arabic people have been mixing for a long time too. So there's the etymology debate on it. So that it doesn't just mean mule; it means like mixed and earlier etymology of it. That was probably twisted by Portuguese.
That's what mule means, because it's a mix between two different animals.
It's just a mixture, right?
I mean, that's
why it's called a mule.
Homo sapiens are animals.
Right.
But no, they're just mad because light skins, they want to say that they're monoracial, but they know they're mulatto, so they're all sensitive about the word mulatto. And so if we use it, they get mad.
People are sensitive about that.
That's the real deal.
Rap artist. Remember the rap artist, the woman who
that's what I got on here.
Mulatto, the African American community tore her apart and was like, you can't use that, but yet they use the N-word.
I came on TikTok in November after that happened and put quadroon on my page, and everybody was like, trying to get me taken down right away. But I explained it, and they let me up. So,
what is it?
Quadroon is a half a mulatto. Yeah.
Wait, slow down, because all I'm hearing is like double coon, triple coon, quadroon, pentacoon, hexacoon. Like help me out here.
So a quad is a quarter, a octa is the eighth, a hexadeca is 1/16. So, and the rune is like a maroon, like the Maroons, the Runaways in like Jamaica and South America.
Wait. Is Maroon 5 symbolizing something racist? What was that?
Maroon.
I was about to go a whole Illuminati thing. Yes, please. I'm sitting there tracing triangles with eyeballs in them. Come and put what down on me?
There's a lot of connotations to the word maroon. That's why.
Maroon 5 symbolizes the 5 group members on an island by themselves. That's what maroon.
So wait a minute. I have a question about quadroon. I thought quadroon meant 75% when I did the research on it.
75% white.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Right. And it's the same in Australia with the Aborigines, or the native Australians. I shouldn't say Aboriginals. It's like a quarter.
What does coon actually mean?
Coon?
Yeah,
coon in our community means like a sellout.
A sellout.
Yeah. Right. So why are we using quadroon and triple coon?
No, it's not. No, it's just ROON.
It's Dune, quadroon, like droon, like there's no C in it.
Double Dune.
ROON. Or DR, whatever.
Like cartoon, troon, like Tron.
Right.
Troon.
No. Here, I put it in the comments.
Because if you're a quarter white and 75%,
that sounds like a Pokemon. I love that. That's funny.
Did you know the term for if you were 75% black and a quarter white, you were called a Sambo.
Yeah. And Zambo for Native American.
Like the movie. What's the movie with the dude and the guns? He fucking shit up.
There's a lot of
in Mexico.
Yeah, the Rambo. Yeah, the Rambo.
Rambo. In Mexico, they got one called Tente in el Era, and it means like the people that live in hammocks, but it like translates in society as they're so mixed that it's just up in the air. So
it sounds like hobo, like they invented
it. They were creative as shit.
Oh, that's Maya.
Oh, you said Sambo. I thought you said Rambo. God damn it.
Yeah, Sambo. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look all that stuff up. Actually, y'all can tell me about it. I was just curious because I was like, I don't know what all this coon stuff is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awful, man. I mean, they're very creative when it comes to it, but that's why we got to stay in solidarity. Like,
Wait. Can we address her? Because she said a quadroon is someone who's 1/4 black, not 1/4 white. Can y'all clarify that?
No, she's wrong.
Well, she was right about that.
A mulatto is half white, half black, and a mulatto and a white person make a quadroon. A quadroon and a white person make a octaroon, and a white person make a hexadeca. 1/32nd, I can't remember. But they do call it like something different in Santo Domingo.
Okay, I'm not gonna remember all
the Dominican Republic. Yeah. But it's all on Google. Just Google or on Wikipedia.
Ooh, that could be a rap. I could do a rap for it. Jackaroon.
Last night got so hot about it. They were so mad. They were
sweep it up with a broom.
They were just so sensitive about it. And there's one lady. She was like, she was correcting me about her pronouns, and then she tells me that, or they tell me that that a 25% black person is like saying the 1-drop rule still in play. And I was just explaining her that, quadroon is just one generation whiter than a mulatto. And they were like, don't use the word mulatto. And I was like, all right, well, the M word, but it's, I think that is the biggest problem is nobody wants to admit to the history that goes into.
Which is basically the same thing, right? Okay. So I
just think curious. That got my attention.
We can use the term if we want to. I mean, we are mulattoes ourselves. So who's gonna check me if I say our term?
Right. I don't use the N word. I want to.
As long as the foundation is something that makes sense and don't hurt nobody, it's whatever, But I'm the type where I want to make sure, I want to know what it is because it's been discussed for a while. So if it's gonna happen, let's figure it out. Let's ask the questions, and people who are opposed to it can ask questions.
To just joke about it. I think joking, like getting into funny, making people laugh about the trauma is a way to heal from it. Get the community back together, but nobody wants to joke about that shit at all.
For real,
exactly. It's
they
crazy,
all feel
right?
comfortable joking about the N-word. Once you Mulatto, it's all hell breaks loose.
Oh hell no!
Yeah, there's a lot of negative energy around that word. You know what I'm saying? It needs to.
You know, one of the reasons is because back in the day, like people that were passing or whatever,
Mhm.
they would basically disown their black side of the family, and
Right.
then when they get found out,
But that's
they
but
run
that's
back to
beyond.
it.
But that's beyond mulatto. But
Chocolate
passing is beyond
mulatto.
mulatto.
But
Passing
it's
is
not back
beyond
in the
mulatto,
day
though.
either. We don't need to do that shit no more.
Yeah,
No, don't
and
need to do that no more.
passing is way
Yeah,
beyond the term
yeah,
mulatto.
yeah.
Passing is like when you're octaroon and you
Yeah,
decide to just be
right,
like, no one can tell that I'm white, black at all, any
right,
drop. So I'm just gonna say I'm white because I'm only like 1/8 black. You know, like
right,
that's what passing really was.
right,
Mulattoes weren't always passing unless they were just,
right.
I don't
And I
For
know.
me,
can't as
it's
I
weird.
can't
I can
pass. I can't
tell.
actually pass as a quadroon. You know, like I could walk, drive by a cop maybe, but I get pulled over and ask my race quite often.
I can tell. I can tell if you black. I can't tell if you like me. It's weird. Like my gaydar sucks. I can't tell if somebody's gay, but I can tell if they black.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
because race and sexuality are fucking way different, bro.
I
my
know,
partner is
but I should
white.
be able to tell if somebody's gay. I should be able to
man.
tell. I am
Nah,
gay. I'm
man.
supposed to be able to
Nah,
know, and I don't know. So I can tell if you black.
I
So
mean,
listen,
most
my
most
partner is very, very light. His grandmother, she was white basically. I think she might have had a little mixture, but she had like red, straight hair, white, and all of his family and his mother's, and his grandfather was Indian on the reservation, Indian. But when we get pulled over, whenever they mark his, they mark him as white, and it's funny because any black person can tell by looking at him. He has like lips like a black person, his nose so like a black person, and he has our like regular textured black hair. I mean, it's a little bit nicer, finer, or whatever, but they always mark him as white.
Yeah,
So
where's
because
the
like,
white people can't really tell what mixed looks like. It's black people who
no?
look at mixed people and say you're black.
No way.
Because like they're
Yeah.
so used to the variety of shades and noses and all that stuff. Whereas Caucasian people, they've never really been good with that because unless you look extremely like mostly black, because
Unless it's
So,
your job.
so I
Johnny
have another
Cash.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
There are already, I guess, mulatto or biracial communities that are kind of spread around the U.S. So let's say this is the place where we're starting this thing, and let's say we're trying to get it going, and we're doing it for the right reasons. What is our next step? Like, how do we gather people,
Ooh,
if that makes sense?
I thought about
well,
this.
first of all, you would have to do it. It had to be something more like a support group because if you just want to have a community where you're like dividing yourself away from the black community, you're going to get a lot of heat for that. You're going to get a lot of heat.
Exactly.
She's gonna
Exactly.
get a lot of hate no matter what.
You know what? I
That's
thought
the
about
main
this.
reason why yellow people get a lot of heat
Co-sponsor.
nowadays because either uh, somebody's jealous of them because they think they look prettier or whatever, or because they think that they're white and better than the other black people. And that's a real huge. That's the people who you talk about in these groups who are making you do this paper bag reverse test. Those are the people. And believe me, it's not the majority of black people. It's just a small,
Yeah.
loud community that act like that. Because
But
most
this
black
loud
people I
community
know,
is growing.
they love
Part of them,
mixed.
then if it's like my understanding is I believe you. It's a small amount of people. So if it's just a small amount of people, we ain't worried about them. They can come in and discuss us on TikTok, but once that's all said and done, we still collecting. So at the end of the day, what does it? I'll ask again. What is it? What is like pulling people into this look like? How do we do that? Do we reach through like TikTok? Or, do we actually go out? Like, what does it look like to actually go out there and find these communities or connect with these people who don't have one? Like, how do we actually like build now? Because we have our little foundation. I asked about that. So let's say we have all that set up. Like, where would we go in theory?
Honestly, I felt this. Oh,
Start.
go ahead.
I wanted to start building like local little organizations because I wanted to start like how do we connect So I said I wanted to do like a festival or something like that, because I was inspired by this like festival, and it was only for like gendered people, right? I was like, oh my god, that'd be so cool if we had a festival like that for like biracial people. So I think that would be cool just to see how that goes. And then what I did? I was like, I wanted to connect like locally, so I started like this local like Facebook group, try to just connect with people locally in my area. But we're also spread out all over the place. So it's hard. It's really hard to like connect with, but I think we should start like within our cities and trying to build like a little bit of like, I wanted to have like a nonprofit or something, so we could have resources for biracial mixed race people and for the parents of biracial mixed race people, so we can empower them and making sure they're good, because
I think that's important, at least especially for children, for the parents, especially for white parents raising a biracial child on their own.
Right.
They need that type of support because they don't know a lot of with the hair and stuff like that, and they just don't know how their child is going to be reacted to by other people.
Because look, I'm doing
and so that'd be great.
I'm doing that because in my apartment complex I live in, right, there's this grandmother. She has like, her daughter had 3 little biracial kids, and they they're not taking care of them, so they sent them to the grandma. But I step in and help like take care of them a lot of the time, because I feel like they need that support. We need that sense of like, and I'm biracial. I send her resources of like, oh, this would be good to help. Like, it's about having that support system, because who else is going to know how to like help raise biracial children than biracial people themselves, because we know what it's like, So I
think that's okay. It's just that you have to be strict with those parameters, because you don't want it to end up something like Haiti and the Dominican Republic. You know how on one side it's black people, other side it's
mixed people, right? No, we don't want that.
See, and you also have to have people that are willing to be a part of that community, because you can open a community, but like you said, like mixed children that have white parents. See, like where I live at, there's a lot of white mothers here that refuse to learn how to do their baby's hair, especially like their daughters. Their boys, they just shave their head. They don't even care. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to try to braid it. They don't want to try to moisturize it or nothing like that. And like, personally, like, I have offered like plenty of white mothers like, hey, let me teach you, and not to like even like harp on them or like to make them feel bad. Like, if you don't know, let me educate you. And they just like, they shoot it down, and they don't want to have to learn that thing. It's like they have a guilt, but then they don't want to try to make it better by helping their child in the ways that they know that they need to.
And that needs to stop. They need to do better.
It's because they know they already failed, and they have trauma from that. And I've been trying to deal with that with my mom for years, but it's just leaking into the next. What about like biracial consciousness, or like a biracial ideology? And so like, if we just don't have to like separate ourselves, but like instill this into the black community, that like
we might be thinking too far ahead though. we might be thinking too far ahead. We gotta find the people who want to do this. Like, now that we have a foundation, and we don't really have a plan yet, but we have to find people who actually want to do this before we can actually stand up and like speak on something. Because we right now don't really have people.
Well, we have a lot of people growing every day. I mean, every time she goes live, she's always making.
We have a majority, but they seem to sink into one category or the other. So we need to be able to identify these people and then rally them. In other words, so it's like it's a matter of getting out there and finding them, because they're out there,
right?
For sure. And I mean, biracial is definitely a growing demographic. So
yes,
yeah,
and we need to prepare the next generation. So I don't want another generation of biracial kids and like, oh, where do I fit in? I'm confused. I don't know. Like, that's my main motivation, is like the next generation, so we can have something set up for them, so they don't have to deal with all these confusing identity issues. They can have a community that supports them. They can have, resources that help them when need be. If they do need to get a therapist, they can find a biracial therapist if need be. They can find, resources for them to help them with their mental health and help them through their racial identity. Like, they just need the resources, support, and community. Like, we didn't have that growing up. Like, none of us did. So that's why I just want to put that in place for the next generation of these biracial kids coming up, so they don't have to sit here and be confused and have to go through years of trying to figure out who they are and all that stuff. So, and we can't. I do think that the ideology. I do think we should have define who we are for us, because there is negative ideology that don't come about biracial people. So it's like we should have positive ideologies about us. So we can't have knowing the history and knowing who we are and just knowing it's a beautiful thing to be biracial, instead of saying, oh, it's a negative, there's a lot of ideologies around being biracial that are detrimental to biracial people. So why don't we should flip that and have positive ones, so we can feel uplifted.
I just want to bounce back to this comment. That's in the thread, because they said, always critical of white mothers. What about black fathers? Black fathers can learn to do their child's hair, and they can have grandma or auntie's help. So my opinion on that, so I personally actually am dealing with one of my best friends. I've known him for 16 years. He is a black man, and his baby mama is white. And the issue that they have together is because they co-parent, is that the mother absolutely refuses to do the daughter's hair. So the only time the baby gets her hair done is when she goes to her dad's house. The dad is doing her hair. But a lot of the time, because the mom has her during the week, or she may have her for a full month before she gets to go see her dad again, by the time the baby goes back to her dad, her hair is matted, it's dry, it's just not done. So I don't really feel like that's a fair assumption that you to make, because people are really trying to get it done to where these black fathers are trying to teach these white mothers, and they're refusing to learn how to do their baby's hair. They don't want to take the time to be knowledgeable on these things, and that's not really something that we can force. I mean, it's just like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly.
But it is on the dad. I mean, well, if they stay together or whatever, it's like
it's on both.
You gotta pick somebody that you know is going to do that already. You can't
It should be both of them who know, because it's both of their.
I understand, but from my experience, man, my dad was there my whole life. Married to my mom until he died a few years ago. Drive to really, I don't know, motivate her into understanding black issues. It wasn't her problem. It's our problem, but it is her problem. So. Explain they try to do this accountability shit. So I told that lady to just be a mother. I mean, she's obviously not trying to do her whole responsibility. Maybe she doesn't feel like she owes it because of some racial bias that she has not dealt with. That's the reality. So these moms that have these racism in them, I mean, I just call it that. So I don't try to pussyfoot around it no more. That's just what it is.
Yep. But you know what? Yeah, anybody else, I'm probably going to close this live, but, I really come to the conclusion that, my goals are definitely just making sure that in this country of America, that mixed race people, they have support, they have recognition, acknowledgement, they have a community, and they have acknowledgement, community support, and then they have all of that. They can have all that. I'm missing one. What am I missing?
I think that's a great thing, for support, stuff like that. You just got to remember the people who created race and what they're going to consider you as. So I just like to keep in mind, when you start these groups, if you have anybody who comes inside those groups and they're acting like anti-black, then that could really just turn the whole group upside down.
I mean, we already discussed that there are bad people everywhere, and we're not worried about what other people have to think about it either. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure what you're trying to get out of it. There are anti-biracial people in the black community, but it's what's your point?
My point is, the reason why we are divided, why there is a big issue between biracial people and darker people or whatever, is because they've been pitted. They've been pitted against each other, and then there were some who thought they were better, like we talked about in the past, who thought they were better because of their complexion. And so in order not to turn this group into the blue vein society, you want to weed those people out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we talked
was
about our
saying.
foundation. So
I
those
think that,
people, just
yeah.
like there are bad people in the Black community, I'm sure bad people will make their way into this. But the foundation of this is not that. So
Right.
as long as you stay true to what the foundation is, we're fine. That's why I was pressing so hard on what is this? What is this? What is a biracial? That's why I was pressing so hard on it, because of the foundation sucked, and that's it. But we discussed that too.
And so, and anybody can join
Yes.
the group, you said, right? That
Yeah.
considers themselves biracial or multiracial.
Yeah, pretty
Yep,
much. Anyone
we
that's mixed
discussed
race.
that.
They
Okay.
have a place
Yeah.
to feel free to be home.
Exactly. And okay, but what I wanted to say too, I think that I wanted to go both ways though. I want us, we're going to check anti-Blackness, it's not okay. That's not acceptable within our communities. But
Absolutely.
I want the same thing. I want to start seeing the same thing within the Black community. Like when it comes to anti-biracialness and people disregarding and disrespecting people just because they're biracial. Like I want people to start checking that too. Like, hey, that's not okay. That shouldn't be acceptable in our community.
But
so I wanted to just go both ways.
It would be nice, but I don't even have that expectation at the moment. I think it just fuels the desire for this. I say they don't even need to change, really. Like those few people, they don't need to change, because that's what drives a community like this to even exist in the first place. They would just add more fuel to the fire. So let it be. Let it be.
Let it be.
Let it be.
Let it be.
We can only control ourselves. We can't control other people. So if you do want to dismantle something like this, then I strongly suggest, not being anti-biracial. But if not, that's okay. Feed it.
That's okay. Either way, right?
Yep, feed it. It's up to y'all at this point. But
Can we talk about the white mom stereotype then?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if there's a Black mom, then that means there's like a Chad dad sometimes, right? So if
Not Chad Dad.
Chad dad does some damage too.
Wait, what's a Chad dad?
Like
Chad
a frat boy,
Dad.
like a frat guy.
A frat
Chad,
guy?
like a Chad,
Like a frat guy, a
like
Chad.
like a Chad.
You mean like the jocks, like in college?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know how we used to talk about Karens and they got like Chads and something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so that stereotype, like the stereotype that the Black mom and the white dad is a better mix than a Black dad and a white mom.
Oh,
Dang.
There is that usually is the way it
I
works.
started calling it white momism, but
White momism.
I call it commonism because it's
I feel like we're
common.
pitted against each other too. Like that's something that like our community faces. Like if you're a Black mom biracial or white mom biracial, it's like we're pitted against each other, which needs to stop too, which is weird.
But that mostly comes from the Black community, because I've seen that there are other biracial people who say that's not the case for them. But the Black community does feel strongly about it based on their experience with Mulatto people.
Yeah, that's the beauty of founding a community. We can decide to put an end to the generational stuff. Now, we could do that within the confines of a Black community, or we can do that within the confines of our own zone. And I mean, regardless of what we pick, we can decide, this ends here.
This ends here. Period. We get to take control of
we can
things.
decide that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I am still kind of curious of how it's going to work out when you have people who's claiming to be biracial and they don't look biracial to you guys. I want to see how that's going to work out.
Well, we told you that we would accept them.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I already know that a lot of people, can look like anything. So,
Yeah. But the thing about it is, and here's where my fear was, and which I hit on earlier, but it seems like, if you have darker skin, then you wouldn't relate to the struggle that was mentioned earlier. Whereas
but
you don't feel represented.
phenotype? What about phenotype? What if you're dark skinned and look Indian, and people are saying that you're not Black because you look Indian?
See, that could be a good example.
a lot of
That could
dark
be a good
skinned people,
example. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
dark
But if
skinned
you
people
happen
who
to
are
look
mixed.
black, is what I'm talking about. But you're right. You're right about that.
Yeah.
But I was saying that if you happen to look black, then you could pretty much just chill in the black community because you wouldn't have a recognizable biracial struggle, even if you are
Right.
But
biracial.
that's not completely true. Like
Y'all think I'm black passing?
my
Somebody said
grandmother,
I was
she's
black passing the other day.
that you a what black person?
Yeah, somebody said that I'm fully black. They wouldn't be able to tell that I'm mixed at all.
But that's because they think that
there's a
all
lot
black
of
people
light skinned
who look,
people.
yeah,
Right.
They think
That
like,
goes back to monoracial shit.
Right. It's a
I
lot
mean,
of
and the way I grew up, I grew up
Monoracial light skins.
white
like I'm
parents.
fine. Like me personally, I'm fine with being in a black community. It's just I currently don't feel like I hold, much ground or I'm stealing ground. So that's the reason why I feel like a biracial community exists. And if I look at my family history, I am mixed. Now, I don't really tote it around or anything. It's just for me, it's like I don't feel like I have a space where I identify. So that's kind of where it is. It's a need for acceptance. I don't have serious, deep problems, but there's a need for it, and I'm not just going to continue to put my own problems on the back burner because someone else is more important. Like you can have your support and I can have mine. That's how I feel, whether it's in a black community or whatever. I was born here. I didn't choose to be here. So it's like, I don't care what form it takes, but it looks like this is the form that it needs to take. That's my take on it right now. So, if whatever someone disagrees with, I'm always the type to say, what are you going to do about it? Like my attitude is, if you're wanting to do something about something, like if someone's breath stinks, you can tell them that their breath stinks, but if you're not gonna provide any support, why the fuck are you in there just being rude? You know what I mean?
Hey, would you like some Listerine?
Yeah, for me, I give them a little gift basket. I give them a gift basket with some toothpaste and some Listerine and be like, look, people saying your breath stink and I believe them. But if you're not gonna do nothing, yeah.
Lil Breezy says, I feel like dark-skinned mixed people still have a different experience than monoracial black people. I think so, too. Yeah.
But some of them have weird experiences. My grandmother, when she used to be on the bus, when she was younger, everyone used to come and start talking to her in different languages. Either it was an Ethiopian or either it was a Latin person, always thinking that she was either Brazilian or something like that. And she would consider herself completely black, even though her grandparents were white. One of them was. So it's like she has that experience of being thought of as something else, as an other, but it's not the same experience as a person who is bright, light, and white.
So she was a dark-skinned mixed person, but still people kept saying you're mixed because they kept thinking she was something else.
Exactly. Right.
And see, that's a good example.
Has, sharp features and stuff like that. So she looks like she could be either like a white mixed person or Indian or something like that. Her hair's down her back. So
that's a good example of a struggle. That's a really good example. And then Giovanni mentioned, like, what if you're mixed but don't look black? I mean, these are a lot of examples. So the fear of a biracial community discriminating against people who aren't lighter skinned has already been debunked right here in this chat through, casual discussion, civilized discussion. So that's out of the way. So what next?
What next, y'all? How are we gonna get people to stop hating themselves for being biracial? That's a big discussion.
I think we should teach the history. Like, we need to teach
I think it's good.
all the people who are mixed race. We can't just call them black in history anymore. We have to go back and call them and teach the history about how the families.
Is all the people I know who are mixed race or light skinned, they are the most Afrocentric people I know. They're the power people. They're the ones that march. It's not the dark people,
the Sheikies and all that shit.
But they're doing it for approval because the moment they do it, they get hyped up on social media. They got 1 million views. And the moment
Yeah.
that they say, "Oh, I'm biracial," then they're gonna not get those views anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not for pure intentions. It's definitely for overcompensation. Sometimes a lot of the
Solidarity,
time.
compensation. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think all of it is
Mm-hmm.
that. I think a lot of it because some of them have issues with like their parents and stuff. Like for example,
Oh,
like I was
that's
talking
true
about my
too. That's a good.
grandmother.
Yeah, that happens a lot as
Yeah,
well.
like with my
Oh
grandmother,
yeah.
half of her siblings are light, bright, like I said, green eyes, blonde hair, and then we have everybody else who is either light skinned, regular with fine hair, and then like brown skin with fine hair and fine features. But there was always favorites in the family because of their phenotypes, because who was the prettiest, you know what I'm saying? Who was the fairest? There was always issues between them two in that group. And it comes a lot of times from the black community within ourselves. It's not, I don't usually see black people going to other mixed people and really, being nasty toward them. It's usually something that comes from within.
I would disagree.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
I'm
that
talking about what I
colorism
see,
is
from what
taught.
I've
You,
seen.
Yeah.
you know
Well,
I
why
think
you're
it's a
seeing it
taught
that
thing.
way? You know why you're seeing it that way? Because there was this movie, right? Halle Berry played it, and it was basically like, okay, let's say your family. Let's go back to the 1800s. Let's go to your actual white ancestor who had a daughter, right? And the woman is trying to get the daughter to go with another mixed race person, and the white ancestor is also telling their daughter, make sure that they have this kind of nose, this kind of hair, and then that daughter actually marries that person. The child after that, they continue that same thing, but it
Hmm.
came from that one particular ancestor, and a lot of people don't realizing 4 generations later, they're still doing the same thing. And that's because of the
Hmm.
past. But today, that's not necessarily the issue unless you want it to be that way, right?
Well,
Most
a
people
lot of
today are
black men make it
marrying,
the issue.
right? But I don't know about biracial people. I don't know what the like that would have to. I don't know what the case by case is with like biracial people today. I don't know if most of them are going that far. I'm sure that probably exists, but I don't think it's the majority. But I could be wrong. What do you guys think?
For me, it was just like kind of texturism and stuff because like my hair's pretty coarse and curly, and so some of the darker still mixed, but like first generation mixed. It was always about something like that didn't make it quite right, or how they had like
But do you think
I
people
don't know if it
our
was
age are like, looking for, like those kind of things? Like that's what I mean. Like people in our generation.
Yeah,
Do you think
that's
it's
What would you say is our age?
I'm
well, I think
40.
all of us are like in our, from 21 to 40, I guess.
Millennials.
Well, 21 to 30.
what
Yeah, 21 to 30 something.
Yeah.
I'm actually
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
40.
29.
So
I'm
I'm
29.
the oldest one here. So
no, I'm the
I'm
oldest one here,
35.
probably.
I'm 35. So I'm at the tail end of
I'm
those
42.
conversations as a 35-year-old because I know my generation marry whoever they love. So that's why I'm saying, I could understand like, yeah, my parents' generation, like my mom had those issues with her family because they were all into that stuff. But, I don't think it's necessarily my generation. I think they just marry whoever they like.
Yeah, but you know
I
what?
mean,
There's a
I had
big
one
thing.
experience. I mean, it was just with I guess it was with a monoracial black chick in high school, where it became a problem because I was too light for like the black community to date her specifically. Um,
Uh,
right,
That's
but it was just because
ridiculous.
she was pretty or whatever. It wasn't like I don't know,
That's
whatever. But
ridiculous. I
it
do
is pretty
think
ridiculous.
nowadays, especially in hip hop culture, where all the rappers talking about a red bone, yellow bone, and so I
yeah,
think
that's
that enslaves a lot of brown skinned women,
Blueberry
and that's
bone.
why they have those type of issues, and they
Yeah,
try to exclude mixed people because of this perception that mixed people are prettier.
but
And
is it But is it always for mixed men? Like, do mixed men have that privilege, like the pretty privilege, like in the black community?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, as a mixed man, I would say, yeah, we do.
Light skin problems. Come on now.
I've seen it on TikTok.
Come on now, light skin problems. They fetishize you.
If a light skinned black guy looks too nice, they say it's a light skin thing. I've seen it on TikTok a lot of times in the comments. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Is it always that serious though?
It is.
It can't get that serious so fast, though. Bro, I mean, dude, I was threatening, like, this supposed brother from Georgia and a white guy threatened to stab me at work. You know? It's on my pin page. Yeah, it's pinned on my video.
So black and white is teaming up to get rid of someone that's like the mix of the both.
Exactly. They get along because they can hate us together.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's fucking perverse. It's wild as shit, man. Yeah, but it happens. You know, and I'm not saying it's across the board, but I've run into it several times in my life. This time I just had a camera on me, so.
Yeah, you always gonna have some bad stuff there.
I haven't really gotten that much problems from Caucasian people, but I think like with black people, I don't really get that much issues either. I think it's more like, well, most of the time they will just assume I'm just Spanish. So like where I'm at, you know, so like, I think that's why I don't really have issues with both sides so much. But if I was to tell them all of like what I am, then it's like they want to know, so what do you identify more as? And that's like when it's like, well, I identify with all of it. And then that's when it's like,
that's stupid.
Yeah.
You do that. You identify as who you are. I just think as long as you are identifying all parts of you, I think it's cool.
So
if you deny parts of yourself, that's
so I got a story. So like I hooked up with this lady, you know, one night stand kind of deal at a bar. But we're like laying in bed and smoking weed or whatever, and I mentioned something about like, you know, how it was growing up light skinned in DC, and she swears she didn't know I was black, even though she like had her hand all in my hair, and I've had dreads for like 22 years. This was like maybe 10 years ago. But she just was like so fucking mad and got up and was like, "You're fucking black," and just like bolted, you know. But she was saying that it was like SA because I didn't disclose the fact that I was black.
Are you serious?
Right. And so I've told this story and I've bounced it off people in like public, and like I'll tell it in different variations of like if it was me or a friend.
Sounds
just to see how people agree with her. That's the scary part. And I was
that you should disclose your whole racial background before
like
you get
right away. Like, so I tried that, and I'm like,
crazy.
So I do that, and they're like, women that assume that they're not racist or anti-racist. If I'm like, oh, I'm black, they'll like accuse me of thinking that they're racist. Like, why would you tell me that right away? You know. So there's really not a good way to circumvent it. I feel like sometimes, especially nowadays, like it was a lot easier during like Obama's years, but since Trump took office and the Proud Boys and all that shit, it's gotten fucking crazy.
See, it's crazy that you have a story like that, because I remember whenever I used to work at this one place, I had a manager tell me, because she has a mixed baby, she's a white woman, but she was telling me that she didn't realize that her now ex-husband, when they were engaged, was black, like that he was mixed. And
yeah,
so
I just can't buy
she
that.
didn't realize that until her baby started popping out. And then when she had her first baby, she got super upset when the nurses brought her kid to her, I guess, and was like, well, here's your baby. And she was like, my baby isn't black. Me and my fiance are white. And he was like, I'm not white, I'm mixed. And she like a whole new like realization came to her life when she realized that she had a baby with a mixed man.
So she done had a baby.
That's just gotta stop.
He said, "I can show you the world."
This is the stuff we gotta laugh about.
Damn.
I'm sorry, but that is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
It's wild though, because like, how do you like? I understand, but like, how do you not know? Because she showed me a picture of this man, and he was like my complexion. I'm like, girl, you just got to be stupid at this point. Like, there's no way that you didn't know this man was not mixed.
Like, you didn't realize
there's a stand-up
his drawers
online.
that he was mixed.
There's a stand-up online right now where the comedian on stage calls this dude out for being mixed, and the chick is like, he's white. And he just looks at him and he's like, bro, are you serious? And he discloses in front of her. But he didn't tell her on the date, so it's a pretty good one. Yeah.
But it's like, to say that you're sexually assaulted because he didn't disclose his race, it's like...
That's too far. That's
a stretch, right?
Sorry.
But there was a case, I looked it up.
I didn't know you were mixed.
I looked it up after that, and there was a case in Israel where a Palestinian dude was charged with it because he didn't tell an Israeli woman.
Yeah, I mean, and of course here in America, you know, before Loving v. What's it, Loving?
Yeah, Loving v. Virginia.
Yeah. Loving v. Virginia, yeah. And actually, my family grew up around them, so and they know them. But before that, if you were passing and you had sex with a white woman and she found out you were black, you were getting lynched the next day.
Right. Yeah, they made them move out of the state like a couple times.
Yeah,
like,
they had to move out the state, and then they came back and arrested them.
Trail of Tears kind of shit. They used to give people $1,000 back in like the day to leave Virginia and move to like DC and Maryland.
Hey, that's a way. If you're in debt and you're like, I know a way to get some money.
Yeah, but then they just snatch you and take you back and put you. It was for free people. So like, if you were living in Virginia, you got your manumission papers. They would give you $1,000 to leave. But then the underground or the reverse underground railroad people would just take you back. Oh God.
This slave patrol.
She said, like, I can't help your race star don't work. I love that.
That's what the police are.
Y'all so funny. Oh my God.
I mean,
I love these faces.
I love that.
I don't. It is weird that some people felt that you should disclose. Was it mostly Caucasian people saying this or black people?
Bro, it got so bad. I got cornered by some like rednecks downtown, and they were like, "You must disclose your race to white women."
Oh, that makes sense. What?
And then I was like, I asked them, I was like, only white women or
redneck white women, I guess.
Damn.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was about to be a hate crime, bro. But I hold my own very well. So.
What state are you in again? I keep forgetting. Like you're somewhere deep in the South.
You're in Virginia, aren't you?
I'm in Colorado right now for the past.
Oh, okay.
Wow, yeah.
Oh,
back then,
I grew up in
Colorado. Bugging.
What's up?
But when this was happening, what state was it? When
it was in Denver.
Was happening?
It was in Denver.
Oh yeah,
in Denver,
Colorado. Bugging. I don't know.
It was at a hippie bar.
I can see
That's
that.
crazy.
But it was at a hippie bar.
I don't know. Hippies kind of racist though.
Oh yeah, no, they're hella racist. They try to pretend that they're not, but they're
Not the hippies. They're racist too.
Yeah, they're down to fucking.
No way.
Yeah,
I thought they
so-
were good. I thought they were all like free love.
So are you
and-
saying Burning Man
No.
is racist also?
Yeah,
What about
they're also
Burning Man?
homophobic.
I thought
But
there
no,
was
there's
some
a
sex
lot
But no, they're more
There's a
accepting
lot
of the
of
white people
LGBT
that
than
weren't
black
racist.
people.
There's a lot of gay people.
But if you're black and
What are you talking
LGBT,
about?
Someone said they
they'll accept you.
mean. Man, a
They'd be
banana.
like,
They said
they don't want me
hippies
there
are
because I can. They
Right, they don't want
crazy.
straight. They don't want straight
Wait,
black
sorry.
girls there because they,
Right.
they can get their girls.
Right.
Okay, I'm hearing
exactly.
contradicting things. Okay, Burning Man, right? Are you saying all those people, those hippie-loving people in Burning Man, they're all racist too?
I mean, they won't admit it, but I can prove it. I mean, I can go
They
there and
definitely
prove it
never
with you.
even it. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay, so like
Every group had a subgroup of races. Period. And that's
so
just
like the
way it is.
hippies, like the Grateful Dead.
They're wild.
Grateful Dead. They had Hell's Angels as like the because they were like
Oh, they're racist as hell.
Yeah, and so like they have all these connections through the drug trade and guns and all that shit. It's just all organized crime.
The hippies? Hold on.
Yep.
How do we talk?
Yep.
Wait, the hippies?
Yeah.
Because even
You
my
can
dad,
Google.
I think my dad
It's so
was like
blatant. You
my
can
dad was
Google
like
it.
this white hippie dude, but he was cool. I mean, I never dealt with racism, so I guess
they
I
will
got different
smile in your
perspective on
face while they're stabbing you in the back. I always say like I see them and they're like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" And I'm like, say it with a smile. because they'll always say racist shit with a smile and just smile at you the whole time because they're on LSD.
Oh, I would slap shit out of somebody.
Because they're on LSD. Okay, I don't know about. Well, actually, they are, but I ain't gonna take it that far. I ain't gonna take it that far. But
I'm sorry.
Just be careful. Just be careful around them. They don't all have good intentions.
Yeah, you have to be
They're
careful.
bougie
I just
as
got
fuck.
into it with this woman
Oh,
on
you
TikTok
right.
who has
Yo,
dreads
go
and
ahead.
is a hippie, and you would think she was all for it, peace and love. And her biggest thing was, why do black people do this and why do black people do that? She's basically trying to say reverse racism against white people. And she's a hippie. Like, what makes you? Come on now. And she had dreads.
Somebody said a lot of hippies are rich kids cosplaying poverty. That's
exactly
for real, though. For real,
and
though.
They culturally appropriated jive talk.
If you know, you know, baby.
I don't even know what jive talk is.
Like from the 70s.
That's crazy.
Y'all remember Charles Manson, right?
Speaking the jive.
I have this
He was
ex
a big
friend that grew
racist.
up very, very privileged, and she is very bougie. She doesn't go camping; she goes glamping, and she will make sure that you know that she's a white girl, very like blonde hair, blue eyes, pure white girl. You know what I'm saying? But like, so like she acts like she's like very hippie festival. Blah, black issues or like any type of like people of color issues are brought to her, she like turns a blind eye to it. Oh, that's not true. That doesn't happen anymore. You know what I mean? It's like that's why I said earlier. It's like willful ignorance.
They'll always go to Guatemala. Yeah, they'll always go to Guatemala to build like Peace Corps water filters or a church and like talk about how much good they did for third world countries or developing nations, and then they'll come here and just be like, oh, black people, blah blah, bootstraps, something bullshit.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Fuck out of here.
No, because I've heard like Costa Ricans and like people like all these retreats and all this stuff happening, and I heard them speak out about it. Like it's weird. Like they think it's really weird. Like why are you coming over here to do like these weird ass
vacations?
Because they make more money over there. The money's overseas, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah. Black people are doing retreats in Costa Rica now as well to get away from racism.
Y'all remember? Yeah, there was like cults over there started. Did y'all know about that? Like the Nature Boy, like those pro-black cults that were really weird and different. Y'all know about that?
Yep.
Like Jonestown.
No, Jonestown wasn't pro-black.
That was like mixed people.
I know they was Jonestown was mixed people. It was a bunch of different people on this show.
Yeah, Jonestown was mixed people. They were weirdos. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the race. I was talking about the actual cult part of it.
Yeah. They weren't racially mixed. They were just different races.
Races coming together. He was supposed to be accepting of everybody.
But it was the religion that they believed the end of the world, and they had to take this poison so that they could ascend. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
No. That wasn't Jonestown. That was
Jonestown was when they drank the Kool-Aid and all killed themselves. Right?
But no. But you said it for the wrong reason. They didn't do it because they thought the world was ending. They did it because there was a senator who came over to visit them, and when he got there were people there telling them they wanted to leave because it was a cult and they wanted to go home. And so a whole news crew with him. And so they went back to the plane, ready to take off and tell people back in America, come get your family because they ain't doing good here. Right? And so he sent a bunch of his guys out with machine guns and they shot the plane up.
Oh my
and that's
God.
when then when he came back, he told everybody they had to do this, had to drink this Kool-Aid because they were trying to persecute them, and if they came and found out that they killed these people, that they would put all of them in jail. So the only way for them to be okay was to go ahead and get the suicide Kool-Aid, and they'll be all right. So
oh my God.
That's crazy.
The alien one was Heaven's Gate.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You know what makes me think about? I don't know. This is a random thought, but you know how mixed people, you know how we deal with a lot of lack of sense of belonging and stuff like. I wonder if cults like and stuff prey on that. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, they do.
They prey on that. That's how so many people. I wonder if there's a high rate of like mixed people involved in these types of weird ass cults because they feel like they want a sense of belonging. You know what I'm saying? That's something people don't really think about.
Especially back in like the 70s, there were especially in the 70s, there were mixed people in these cults or whatever, and a lot of them were mixed women that were with white males and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big thing back in the 70s.
I
With
think
all
That's
because
that.
cults
crazy.
bring people together of different backgrounds, so I could really see, you being a mixed race coexisting in a place where everyone's of
Mhm.
different backgrounds and everyone's a brother. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that they
But
preyed
but
upon people
well
who lack a sense of belonging, you know? That's
well
scary.
Yeah, that's
like
Jesus.
just how gangs do too.
so y'all
Mm-hmm.
remember the Manson family, right? With Charles
No, what is
Manson and
that? Oh,
stuff.
the Charles Manson? Yeah.
Yeah. So like all those killings were supposed to start.
Hmm.
So it was a bunch of hippies
Helter Skelter.
out in Helter Shelter. That's what it was called. A bunch of hippies out in the damn desert, and the idea was to go around and kill these white people and frame black people for it, so that the black people will rise up and white people will rise up and they would fight each other and create a holy war. That's what it was all about.
Wait,
Black
say that
people.
one more
Yeah,
time.
because he referred to the blacks as the impure.
Right. So
That's
Charles
crazy.
Manson, he wanted to start a holy war. And he thought by
Yeah.
having his followers go out and kill people and act like it was black people that was doing it, that the white people would go all in arms and try to fight
What?
the black people, and the black people would get arms and they would fight the white people, and the whole United States would
I did not know that.
purify itself with this holy war. It was all about racism and all about black people. He didn't kill any
Is he
black
dead yet?
people. Yeah, I think he just died recently, like a couple years
Okay,
ago.
good. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
but what it was all about.
Yeah, she like
That's
good.
why
Yeah,
that's why at in the house you saw stuff like
he
racist
did.
stuff
Yeah.
on the walls, like pig and all this stuff and honky, like you saw all
That's
this racist stuff
why.
on the wall to make it look like black people did it.
Wow. I never thought of it like that ever. Like
Yeah.
I never seen it in that perspective. And it makes perfect
Hmm.
freaking sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is insane. That just blew my mind right now. Oh my God. That's
Yeah, that was
nuts.
crazy times. And they were
That's
hippies. So
the
it goes back
70s
to
were
what you were
crazy.
saying.
Yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ. What in the
It's really
hell is happening?
disturbing. Yeah.
What in the fuck?
Because if you look at
That's
like what they wear, even it's all like old Irish, like Celtic, like they went to the Renaissance fair, but
70s.
like modern or some shit.
Right. And they don't consider the dress an Afrocentric thing. They consider it like a Viking Norse type of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
With the
yeah.
braids and the
Mm-hmm.
dreads. That's how they consider themselves, like Vikings.
Like
Pure
fairy people.
white people.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the
Like
fact
Aryans,
that they're
yes.
like, oh, well, can we talk about the fact that they're like, oh, I'm Viking, that's what I am. And I'm like, you realize that Viking is a job, right? Not a
Right.
not
It's what you're doing.
A lot of these people are retarded because
It's a
Viking went
profession.
all the way to South
Careful, bro.
Europe. Like it went into so many. It went into Spain. It went into Greece. Like being Celtic was not necessarily meant that you came from Ireland, and being Viking didn't necessarily mean that you were in Norway. A lot of them came in different colors. They weren't like super pale all the time and stuff. That's just the image that
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Because people don't like to realize that there were a lot of black people in Europe before the
Oh yeah.
slave trade. And during the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, there were a lot of black people. Not a lot, but there were many in the area.
I think it was
Especially,
mostly mixed race, but then black
right,
as well.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
The
mostly
Euro
because
African people.
they were seafarers. And so what were they doing? They were going from continent to continent or whatever, picking up people, raping and pillaging, and moving on. So they would pick up different races of people as they were moving about and bring them into the collective. So it was basically like a cult back then too. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
crazy. That's so crazy. This combo is crazy. But it's good. You should join my Discord. Y'all should join my Discord. Who's not in my Discord? Me and Ramon be talking in there. Giovanni's in my Discord. JE, do you have a Discord? You should make a Discord so we could all be talking in there.
Instagram, but I can get a Discord.
You should join Discord.
Sure. All right.
Join it. Well, let me know when you join Discord. And then De Niro, join my Discord if you want to. We could all be talking, chilling. Naya,
Naya, you join my Discord? Because y'all are interesting. I want y'all to talk to people more. Yeah,
we got to figure out a way to get this more out into the open. As long as now that the foundation is kind of set and we're able to explain it to people.
Well, I think it's been popping off. Like, I don't know when the first one I did with anybody was a couple weeks ago, maybe. But
that's
it seems
good.
to be getting it, you know, a lot more
New people are joining every day. Like every time I come on here, there's all these people. It's like, because you know, TikTok is like the best thing in the world. Everyone has a TikTok more than any other app that's out there. So this is the best start that you could do. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. Get the numbers, and then from there it goes up. Just, you know, there is that fear of colors, and so as long as we're vocal about it, as long as we're open, you know, the rest is just on them. Like all that hating stuff, that's for them to worry about.
Well, it's just going to take some time as well.
But it's actually to our advantage because there's actually more of us and we're growing.
Yeah, and we got all the knowledge now. We got all the paperwork that come up from like years of digging. I know my family does. So, and as people die, like we get to go through all this shit. So we get to find out secrets they were holding on to. But it's sad, but it's true.
Real quick. I'm gonna drop the Discord link before I head off here. And I think it was a good combo. It was really good. It's really, y'all are very enlightening and smart, and I love coming on here. I love coming on here, just talking and getting to know people, and everybody sharing the different perspectives and the thought process. I just love it. It's really, I love this space so much. I love all you guys. I really do. I really do. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a lot of love for spaces like these.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything you've done. This is really a very fun, entertaining place, and very caring at the same time. So that's nice.
Definitely. And y'all are always welcome on this platform. Every one of y'all. I appreciate every one of you guys' input. And yeah, y'all have a good night. I'm gonna take my ass to bed. Tired.
I didn't realize it was almost 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So y'all have a good night, okay?
All right, good night. Nice talking to you.
Bye, y'all. Good night.
Build interactions, becoming more and more, in a way, angry and